How are you feeling?
Well,
How long have you been here?
3 months, May 17th.
And what brought you here?
That's difficult to answer.
To give you some idea.
I am not completely like other people.
What do you mean by that?
People dislike me because I am not completely like them. I am trying to do with my life something which few people try to do, and this influences my thinking and consequently my action.
What is it you're trying to do with your life?
Play the piano for people.
I'm not clear. How is it that playing the piano for people has eventually resulted in your being here in the hospital?
That's difficult to answer.
facing death. Is this the end? Is this the end? Oh, I'm burning in the stone. There's no place to hide. I'm burning in the stone. This is the final genocide. What have we done to the world? What have we done to the world? I'm burning in the stone. There's no place to hide. I'm burning in the stone. This is the final
Who the fuck is Karlyn? She's just some sweet lady. She's like in a knitting. She does like a knitting stream. She's like a knitting YouTuber. She does knitting.
Can we grow up a little bit and
Alt
not
Girl
be
sent
retarded?
$200. Have you
Please.
seen the work of Karlyn Borysenko? Anti-commie cult leader and is obsessed with looking at what actual far-left communists are talking about and organizing today, infiltrating them. They infiltrated the universities, schools, media. She has the receipts to back it up. Primary source evidence. Infestation is dire and she calls Republicans idiots eating slop. Agree.
Thank you for the big super chat. Yeah, oh, I know Karlyn B. She's solid. She's funny. I
The
like
Great
her.
Noticer sent $200.
Literally,
So
not
it's,
Ian.
it's not because I haven't dangled my junk into the combat zone on purpose to get some camera footage, but that's the big part of what's the
Is
problem.
that what you call reporting?
Go
and live
under if
streaming?
you're going to do it.
Yeah,
go
seriously.
undercover. Otherwise, you're wearing a hunk of meat in a lion's den. Nick Shirley, I love you. Take care of yourself, man. Karlyn Borysenko went undercover. Do stuff like that. Like if you want to expose this thing, don't pariah.
But
Please.
Ian, here's and I agree with you to an extent.
All right, what's up, everyone? What's up? Happy Monday. How are you guys doing? It's Christmas week, which means we can be a little lazy this week. We can be a little lazy. Things are going to be a little quiet. You know, Christmas week and the week between Christmas and New Year's are always the best time to, like, you know, get a little extra work done that maybe you were meaning to do 4 months ago or even longer than that, and you just hadn't gotten to it yet. Or it's a great time to maybe clean up the house to make sure that, you know, just clean out the things that maybe you haven't used in the last year. I know I'm only talking about myself here. I know that no one else ever does this but me. You have stuff in your house that, like, you just refuse to get rid of, even though, like, you're not going to use it. You have clothes you're not going to wear. I started going through the process of, like, cleaning out my closets because I'm trying to make room for Victor to have a closet of his very own, because, like, Victor and I have lived together for over 14 years now, almost 15 years. It'll be 15 years in May. And it's time for Victor to have a closet of his very own. There was a time, I swear to God, this is true. There was a time when Victor had a closet, and then I don't even know what happened. I don't know what year this happened. I don't know exactly how it happened. Victor's closet quietly migrated into the closet in the bathroom, and I took over Victor's closet at some point. And I feel like this was probably around what year did we get married? We got married in 2011. I feel like this was around the time period of, like, 2014, 2015 or so, because I went to work at a job where I had to, have professional clothes. Oh, you know what then happened? I was doing consulting. Actually, you know what? This was probably 2015, 2016, because like I was really, I went full time with doing consulting for organizational psychology. And so I had to buy like clothes. I had to have like, I never wore like business clothes, like full on suits and things, because that's just not my style. But I had to have nicer clothes because I was going on these consulting gigs where people were paying me like $10,000 a day to tell them how to run their businesses and treat their staff and how their staff could work together and stuff like that. And so I had to have a lot of clothes. And I think at some point during the whole organizational consulting time period in my life, I took over Victor's closet, and Victor was relegated to the closet in the bathroom. And now how ironic. Victor has a job where he is selling cars, and so he has to, look, not like a full on suit and tie, but he likes to look nice to go sell cars because he's working in a nicer dealership and stuff like that. And I am sitting at home in sweatpants and t-shirts all day. And so I don't actually need all of the fancy clothes that I bought a while ago. But the thing of it is it's like, even if I haven't worn some of these clothes in years, even if I've never worn some of these clothes, I still have a hard time getting rid of them. Yeah, I colonized, it's true. I colonized my husband's closet. I took it over, and now I'm decolonizing it, and I'm trying to give it back to him. I really am. I want my husband to have a closet of his very own. He does not need to be hanging his stuff up in the closet in the bathroom. That's just, I have like 3 other closets. It's not... in some of the closets, there's literally stuff on the shelves in some of the closets that they were, like, I moved into, Victor was my mover to move me into this house. This is how I met Victor. Victor literally showed up to move me into the house we share today. There are some boxes in one of the closets that I own at the moment that literally, that box got put on that shelf the day I moved into this house, or within a week of me moving into this house, and it's never been touched since. And so Christmas and New Year's, and it's a good time to clean out, and it's a good time to do that stuff, even if you don't want to. Sometimes you have to be an adult and admit that you really don't need that expensive dress that you bought 10 years ago that doesn't even fit anymore, by the way. And you need to sell it and put it on, Poshmark or whatever. Hey, thanks for becoming a member of the channel, Kai Noticer. I really appreciate it. What's Victor getting? Well, you know what? I don't even know if Victor's present is going to be here, and I'm really pissed off about that. I'm actually really pissed. I don't know if Victor's present is going to make it in time for Christmas. It's in Alaska right now. So I hope it makes it in time for Christmas. I hope, fingers crossed. I guess we'll see. But I can't tell you guys. Like, he might find out if I say what he's getting for Christmas on the internet. He's getting some really nice stuff, though, I'll tell you that. He's getting some really, really, really nice stuff. So I hope it comes in time. If it doesn't, I have a video of it I can show him, I guess. So I guess we'll see. Anyway, so I told you guys that this was going to happen. And so the This American Life episode that I was in, that I was really, 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 really hope beyond hope. I was really hoping this was not going to turn into a leftist hit job. I was really, 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 really hoping that the producer that I was talking to was actually an intellectually honest person. Now, dare to dream. Like, for those who don't know, I worked at an NPR member station, and it was one of the worst jobs I ever had. I hated it. I hated it. I hated the people there. I hated the journalists there. I hated the people doing shows there. I hated it. And I worked for New Hampshire Public Radio. I worked for one of like the flat, like in the NPR ecosystem, at least when I worked in it, NHPR was one of like the top affiliates that people were jealous of for some reason. And I never quite understood it, because obviously it's not the biggest affiliate, but it was one of the ones. And again, maybe this has changed. It's been 10 years since I worked at NPR, but like, I got to tell you, like, I was on the kind of like administrative side of it. I was the marketing director. And so it's just like one of the things that's funny about NPR is one of the most toxic places to work in. Public radio, public media is incredibly toxic. It's so toxic that there's a conference about there's a specific conference. I forget the name of it now, but I went to it. There's a specific conference that's specifically for people who work in public media. And at that conference, there is an entire track of sessions for how content people can work better with non-content people. Because when you work at NPR, it's like a class system. Like the content people are the bourgeois and the administrators who make everything run behind the scenes. They're like the proletariat. And the content people are arrogant dickwads. They are so incredibly fucking arrogant and righteous, and they really don't have a lot. They are like the fucking and by the way, I worked at NPR when I was still very much on the left, very much a Democrat, had never considered going anywhere else other than the left. And so it's not as though I wasn't on their team politically, but it was just like it's like the elitist social justice warriors who think they know everything about everything, and they look down on anyone that is not a radio show host at NPR, which is it's like the stupidest fucking thing in the world. But it really is that type of like just elitist bougie attitude. And so I worked at NPR, I think, for a couple of years, and this is the job that I got myself fired from because I promised Victor I wasn't going to quit, but I was so miserable that I just got myself fired from it because what I really wanted to do was go and work for myself and do consulting. And so basically for the last 6 months of that job, I basically literally just went into work and didn't really do anything and used my time to build my consulting business. And that's what I did. And then as soon as I got fired, I went right into consulting. I already had jobs lined up. I already had work lined up, and it was fine. And it was awesome. And that was one of the best things that I ever did, was to go to work for myself. I will never regret that decision. Working for yourself rules. It's very hard in some respects in that you are responsible for bringing in money, and you don't necessarily know where that money is going to come from, but you got to make it work. You have to have a work ethic. You have to show up every day. You know, I remember when I first started streaming, like there was a hit piece article written about me when I first started streaming, and one of the criticisms that they made of me is she is streaming all the time. Well, I consider streaming to be a job, and I had run my own business for 5-6 years full time before I started streaming. And so I have this crazy thing called a work ethic, because like when you work for yourself, you have to show up. Like you don't get sick days, like you don't get paid unless you figure out a way to get paid. But it's also the best because I don't have to report to anyone. I don't have to do any like politicking or stuff like that. And working for myself is awesome. Anyway, going back to NPR. When I was at NPR, one of the reasons I was so miserable is because the content creators were arrogant dickwads. And that was not just at my member station, that was across the system. Like they literally had entire conference tracks about how to work better together and to create a better work. Like that was a core function of the professional development in that space, because the content creators are such arrogant dickwads. Now, when the producer for This American Life reached out to me, you know, I'm in a place right now where I actually don't consider myself to be on the left or the right. I think obviously the left is evil. I think the right is stupid. The left is evil and the right is stupid. And I don't want to be on either of their teams. I am on my own team. So when the producer of This American Life reached out to me after she tried to get in touch with Nick Sorter and he didn't answer her DMs, and she tried to get in touch with a couple other people and they didn't answer her DMs either, she somehow found her way to me because I was streaming on the internet about the Portland protests and I was going to be in Portland and all that stuff. So she reached out to me and I was of two minds about it. The first thing I thought was this bitch is going to do a leftist hit job. This is just going to be a leftist hit job. Do you really want to be involved in doing a leftist hit job? And then the other part of me was kind of like, Karlyn, why don't you just use it as an opportunity to say what you want to say? Honestly, because I do have very sincere and valid criticisms about the right. I have very sincere and valid criticisms about the Trump administration, and of course, like, so part of me was like, you know what? This leftist, and this is actually what I said to her. This leftist is going to love that I am not on the left, and I'm critical of what the left is doing, but I am also probably substantially more critical of the Trump administration and all the ways in which they're being stupid and all the ineffective things that they're doing. I am significantly more vocally critical of the Trump administration, I think, than I actually am of the left. And it's not that I'm not critical of what the left, wants to do. It's not that I'm not critical of their ideas, but it's just like the left is so predictable, and they just keep moving forward no matter what, and their ideas don't change. They're incredibly consistent. The Trump administration has one fucking job, and that is to deal with the problem of the far left, and they are refusing to do it. So I was kind of like, maybe this leftist journalist will like the fact that I'm being critical of the Trump administration, and maybe I have some things I want to say. Maybe there are some ideas that I want to get out there. And if no one on the right is listening to me, and Harmeet Dillon is telling me that my use of capital letters is more important than communists at universities, and no one wants to actually cover the real far left, maybe I'll go and I will talk to the other team and I will say, here are all the reasons the Trump administration sucks for reason X, Y, B, and Z, and be very specific in my complaints so that even if it is taken out of context and even if it was twisted, I would still be happy with the message that I presented. So I was kind of of two minds about this. I kind of thought that this woman was going to basically be the typical arrogant NPR leftist content creator that's better than everyone and knows better than everyone, even though they actually know nothing. I kind of thought that might happen, but I also thought that, you know what, do I really even care? Because I'm not on anyone's team. I'm not on anyone's side. I'm on my own side. I'm on my own side. Now, Reagan, I saw you say this earlier. Reagan said, for what it's worth, I thought they did a pretty good job with Karlyn's sections when I listened earlier. Reagan just said, maybe I was too easy on the lady who produced this. I don't think she did too bad of a job. See, but this is what I'm curious about. What did she leave out? Because I know what I said to her. So we'll see. I don't know. I haven't listened to it yet. But what I did hear from Ocean Plot. See, the reason I think that this is a leftist hit job is I reached out to Ocean Plot the other day, and I said, Ocean Plot, for people who don't know, he's one of the streamers in Portland. But Ocean Plot is about as neutral as you can get. What he does is he goes around and very thoughtfully interviews people. So he talks to everyone. He doesn't present as a political person when he's doing it. He just literally asks people questions about their perspectives. He's like the nicest guy in the world. So basically what happened is this journalist came and followed me around the Portland Ice facility, and I introduced her to a bunch of people, and one of the people I introduced her to was Ocean Plot. And so Ocean Plot had a little interview with her, and so I wanted to let him know. I said, hey, you know that This American Life episode is coming out, right? So we'll see what it says. And he said to me, he's like, Karlyn, I'm really nervous about this, and I really hope that she doesn't use what I told her, because it was very obvious to me she had a political agenda. And listen, if a normal MAGA retard conservative said that, I would kind of dismiss it, because MAGA retards usually don't know up from down, whatever. But the fact that Ocean Plot said it, I'm really nervous about this because this person had an obvious political agenda. I absolutely believed what he said. And then apparently he listened to it, and he told me that the person said that I call myself an analyst or something like that. And that really bothers me. She calls herself an analyst. Well, I do call myself an analyst because I am an analyst, and I have professionally been an analyst. I was a professional analyst and consultant in higher education. I was a professional analyst and consultant in corporate America. She claims that she's an analyst. Oh, okay. I'm sorry, NPR. I am absolutely more of an analyst that presents things in pretty much a neutral way as possible than anyone that works for NPR is an actual fucking journalist. And again, I can say that with experience because I worked at an NPR member station. I have been in this ecosystem. They're all arrogant, elitist douchebags that think that they're better than everyone else, that are all on the fucking left, but they're not on the far left, and they don't really understand the far left. They don't even really understand what the far left is. They're all fucking liberals and progressives. They're like the worst kind of people on the left because not only are they boring, they're stupid. And it's just like, yo, come on, man. Call myself an analyst. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I do. In fact, I do call myself an analyst. I'm the best fucking analyst of the far left in the country right now. And if anyone wants to disagree with me, give me a name of someone who is better. And when I'm doing my analysis, I'm at least I at least try to be intellectually detached. Here is what they said. Here is the document. Here is what the language means. By the way, I'm also extremely critical of the right. So it's not like I'm a partisan. I could have gone and made political money years and years and years and years and years ago. I never did that because I don't want to be a political partisan. I want to be detached and outside of the system. And I think I do about as good a job of that as anyone does in this space. And if you think someone does it better than me, then give me a name. Give me a name of someone who does it better than me. And I'll look. And I will take it and listen, if I can actually find someone that does this better than me, then that would be fucking awesome. Because that would be someone that I could actually connect with and learn from and bounce ideas off of. I'm not opposed to there being someone better than me. The problem is that there's not. I'm the only fucking person doing this. I saw a chat earlier. I want to answer a question. It's on a different topic. I just need to find it. Love when you stream with Adam or Amalek. Are you ever in contact with Devin Stack? You know, Amalek was just talking to me the other day, and Amalek seems to want to try to like connect me and Devin Stack. I don't know anything about Devin Stack other than I did read his book, The Day of the Rope, which to me is kind of derivative from the Turner Diaries, if I'm very honest about it. But I did read the book. It was fine. It was like, you know what, like, you know, good effort to anyone who writes a book. Like, I started writing fiction this year. Writing fiction is hard. And so I appreciate the fact that he put his ideas in the form of a narrative, such as it is. And that narrative has a certain extreme right perspective. It's called Day of the Rope. So people can get the idea of what that is about. But I have read his book. I don't know. Have I ever been in contact with him? No, I really don't know that much about him other than I read his book a couple years ago. And that Amalek wants me to talk to him. But I'm kind of like with all people on that team, I don't believe that for one red second. I do not believe he had not read the Turner Diaries when he wrote that book, because his book in so many ways is a mirror of the Turner Diaries. It is like a different, it is the exact same theme. So, and listen, there's nothing wrong with being inspired by something. I don't think there's any shame in him, you know, listen, I was inspired by 1984. I was inspired by Animal Farm. I was inspired by Brave New World. And I wrote my own dystopian fiction book that is still dystopian fiction, but it's certainly inspired by those things. I don't believe that he did not read the Turner Diaries. There's no way. There's no way. But there's no shade in that. He still wrote a book, and that's still cool. I just don't really know that much about him. And I'm quite frankly like a little worried about playing in that area, mostly because a lot of the men in that space really hate women. And even though I try my very best to not act like a normal woman, even though I scare men like without even trying that hard, it doesn't matter, because most of the men in that space will always and forever hold it over my head that I'm a woman. They will not listen to me because I'm a woman. They will argue with me about every single fucking thing just to prove their fucking masculinity. They won't actually listen to my ideas. They won't actually look at the evidence. And I know that. I know that. They're just insulting and rude and demeaning. Like Amalek and Adam are exceptions in that space. They are very beautiful and handsome and amazing exceptions in that space. This is why I enjoy chatting with Amalek so much. Like, the thing that was shocking to me about Amalek when we first started like becoming friends or whatever he didn't hate women. That was the most shocking thing about Amalek to me when I first started chatting with him. He legitimately doesn't hate women. And when you're talking with a man and Adam too, Adam does not hate women, but Adam and Amalek are exceptions in that whole space. They are exceptions to the rule. They are not the rule. And I'll tell you what, especially because I do chat with Amalek so much, when you actually are talking with someone in that space that doesn't hate women, it makes the men who hate women and who are just going to be needlessly cruel and demeaning and just vile creatures and not listen to anything you have to say and not take any of your ideas seriously. It makes the hatred seemed more pronounced and more toxic because you have a point of comparison. I'm talking to this person and we're able to exchange ideas. We're able to like actually have intellectual conversations. We're able to laugh and joke without any sort of like the bullshit that I have to deal with like 90% of the men in that space. And it's just so nice. And it makes the toxicity even more pronounced because I'm like, okay, well, this person doesn't hate me. And there's nothing I can do about being a woman. I cannot change that. So this person doesn't hate me because of how I'm born. This person isn't treating me like dirt. This person isn't being cruel to me. This person this person is actually taking my work seriously. Like he's actually taking my work seriously. He listens. He looks at what I'm doing. And it's like, if you were all like that, this wouldn't be a problem. And I'm not talking about agreeing with everything that I say. I don't want people to agree with everything I say. Amalek sure as shit does not agree with everything that I say. But it's about having kind of just like a baseline of not treating someone like shit just because they're a girl, or not talking down to them, or actually just taking a moment before they start running their mouth and being insulting to actually listen to what's being presented. And they would say, we listen to women all the time and they don't say anything. Well, that sounds fucking stupid too. Because yeah, there are a lot of like stupid women in the world. I 100% agree on that. But there are a lot of stupid fucking men in the world too. There are a lot of stupid men in the world. And I don't run around every day going, I'm never listening to men because men are stupid for a reason. And I could very easily do that with so many of the men that are on the dissident right. I could very easily do that because a lot of the men on the dissident right act like women. Anyway, that is a very long-winded way of saying that, no, I don't intend to talk to Devin Stack. I don't think Devin Stack is going to have any interest in what I'm doing. I don't think he's going to like even consider what I'm doing. I could certainly be wrong about that. I could certainly be wrong, but I'm not going to go out of my way. If Devin Stack wants to talk to me, he can, DM me or whatever. And I'm not going to go out of my way for it because I got other shit to do, man. I got other shit to do. So, today on the show, we're going to be listening to the This American Life episode, and I'm going to tell you what I know, and I'm going to tell you what this bitch got right. I'm going to tell you what she got wrong. And unlike what I think probably happened in this episode, I'm going to treat the people that made this content probably much more fairly than they treated me, or much more fairly than the people that I know that are going to end up in this. I'm probably going to treat her more fairly than she treated them, which she's not going to want to admit to because she's an elitist content creator at NPR and they can never be wrong about anything and bit. So we're going to listen to this and we're going to talk about it. There are a few editing errors in this. That's funny. Anyway, before we get into that, I do want to remind people, make sure you are subscribed to my Substack. That is Karlyn, KARLYN.substack.com. If you appreciate the work I do, following the far left, breaking down the far left, doing all this stuff so I can show you guys content on the internet that no one else is showing you, please feel free to sign up for a membership. $8 a month, $80 a year. You can also send in super chats if you feel like it. Just like two ladies here, Little Miss Karlyn, more men need to wake up to your research. Hey, I think more of everyone needs to wake up to my research, but that's just me too, ladies. I appreciate that. Guys, if you want to send in a super chat that does support the work I'm doing, it allows me to spend hours and hours streaming with you guys every single week when I could be doing other things that would make me more money. I'm just saying, if you can't afford to financially support me because it's Christmas and you blew all your money, that's okay. Mount the like button for me. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you're sharing my content about the left when you see it. Another way you can support me is follow me on Instagram. Okay. I don't really talk about my Instagram that much. I do have an Instagram. It is instagram.com/Dr. Karlyn B. And this is one of the places I create content on the internet. And I don't know, I have something to talk about in regards to Instagram today. So we're going to talk about my Instagram. So you can go on there. You can find a lot of the videos that I post. You can share them out. You'll find pictures of me. If you really want to scroll back, if you scroll back all the way on my Instagram, you will watch my hair get shorter and shorter and shorter. And then you'll see my poor dog. Oh, I miss my dog. I'm going to cry now. I miss my dog so much. God damn it. Anyway, go follow my main Instagram. And if you scroll back all the way, you will find pictures of me when I was a Democrat. And those pictures are still used against me all the time. People, like, even after with the most real, like, Enrique Tarrio did this. Enrique Tarrio was like, oh, she has a picture with Pete Buttigieg. She is a Democrat. I'm like, you retard. I'm like, all these MAGA retards from Portland were like, she has a picture with Elizabeth Warren on her Instagram. And I was like, what was the date on that? You can find all the pictures of when I was still a Democrat. You can find the pictures of when I was supporting Bernie Sanders. You can find all that. And no, I'm not going to delete it. Do you want to know why? Because I actually believe in having a human experience in the world. And everyone knows my literal origin story, the thing that started all of this, was being a Democrat and waking up to the fact that my side had gone insane and leaving the left. Like, that is my origin story. And so when people like Enrique Retardio like go on Twitter and they're like, she had a picture with Pete Buttigieg, she is obviously a Democrat. It's like, bro, where the fuck have you been? Yes, I was a Democrat. That's the entire point. Anyway, I wanted to bring up Instagram because I have started a new project. I know I need another new project like I need a hole in the head, but hear me out, hear me out, hear me out, hear me out. This is kind of like a thing that I've wanted to do for years. And people who've been around long, you guys will remember, I used to talk about doing more art stuff. I used to talk about doing more music stuff. I used to talk about doing more just like interesting like art things and stuff like that. And then that dream of doing more like kind of just like cultural content, it flew out the window when I got sucked into the far left. It flew out in around 2022 when I started watching far left content for real and getting like really, really, really into it. It flew out the window to do anything around things that I like in real life. Because I know it must seem like I do socialism on the internet all the time. And I do spend a lot of time doing that, but I also do things like collect art. And I also do things like I really appreciate just like really like girly things sometimes, like jewelry and bags and stuff like that, like nice ones and cool ones and stuff like that. I really like I dated musicians for my formative years in my 20s. Like I'm very into all that stuff. And I really wanted a place where I could talk about some of this stuff and show people things that I find on the internet. And so this might seem like a new project. It's really kind of something that I'm already doing on my own. I'm just decided, like, I have a content brain now. I'm like, if I'm going to be doing this thing anyway, if I'm going to be spending time doing these things in my free time, how can I create content out of it? Well, I don't know if I'm going to do it perfectly, But I started a new Instagram account last night because I do want to keep this stuff separate. I'm not going to be talking about this stuff on my YouTube channel. I'm not going to be talking about this stuff on Twitter or the shows or anything like that, because the socialism stuff is the highest priority. But damn, I need a space where I can just like things, okay? I need a space where I can be a little bit of a girl, because I know it's hard to believe I am actually a girl, though, and sometimes I like girl things, and it's the way it goes. I need a place where I can do that. And so I created a new Instagram account last night, and I'm literally just doing this on the fly. And you can find it at instagram.com/KarlynFinds. You can also find a companion account on TikTok. And so if you want to follow this, you can totally follow it. I just put the link in the chat, and this is going to be like, I'm going to post art I like. I'm going to talk about music I like. I'm going to talk about like bags that I like that maybe I get from China and stuff like that. I'm going to talk about how you can find really nice luxury items for like significantly less money, because that's a little fascination that I have, to be honest about it. People, again, might not know this. I actually, because I've rediscovered this because I've been cleaning out the clothes and stuff like that. As I'm cleaning out my clothes and to try to give Victor a new closet, I'm like, holy shit, I have a lot of good stuff. I actually do have a lot of good clothes. I have a lot of good jewelry. I have a lot of good bags and stuff like that. And so I've been going down this rabbit hole for like several months now, where I've been like playing with finding luxury items like sourced from a different location that are significantly less than you would pay in the stores. And so I'm going to talk about that, because I have that fucking kick-ass Chanel bag, and I'm going to tell you exactly where I got that Chanel bag, because it wasn't the $8,000 bag from the Chanel boutique, I'll tell you that. Anyway, it's a little bit better than, it's higher end than Canal Street. It's not Canal Street level. It's much higher end than Canal Street, which, like, that's a whole other thing. That's a whole other thing that I have discovered over the last several months, and I've been having a lot of fun with. Anyway, the purpose of this account is I'm going to show you cool stuff I find on the internet or in real life, whether that be art or vintage stuff or antiques or music or really cool purses and shoes and jewelry and things like that. And I'm going to talk about things that I like that have nothing to fucking do with politics, and I'm going to give people really useful tools where you can find cool stuff too, because I'm really good at finding cool shit. This is one of the things that terrifies my husband. My husband is afraid that like the house is going to become overrun with antiques and like knickknacks and stuff, because as my husband is a former mover, and so the idea of a house overrun with antiques and knickknacks, it's traumatizing to him. So I'm going to start sharing some of that stuff. And if you want to find it, you can follow instagram.com/KarlynFinds. And if you want to follow it on TikTok, you can follow it there too. And I don't really even care how many people follow this account. I don't even care, because I'm going to enjoy doing it because I like this. And it's a hobby, and I can do what I want on the internet. And if I want to make content about stuff I'm doing anyway, why not? Why not? So it just launched like less than 24 hours ago. I'm still figuring it out. You guys will have to, it's very, very low tech. I'm not doing fancy editing or stuff like that. No one's got time for that. But we're just going to have some fun, and we're going to have like a real human experience. Dare to dream. Dare to dream. Anyway, let's get into our episode. Let's listen how This American Life covered the Portland protests. Please mount the like button if you would be so kind. Please make sure you subscribe to the channel if you have not already. I'm just going to reload this. Oh, Jill is over on Rumble. Guys, look at this. Look at this. Look at this. Poetry bitch is over on Rumble. Look at this. Jill is chatting in over on Rumble. Jill, we know you're obsessed. We know. This is so much fun. This is so much fun. Such a brave journalist from your couch. She's using this to build her victim. This fat fucking bitch is so obsessed with me. Like she's finally figured out that I haven't banned her on that Rumble account. So she's now over watching on Rumble. So if you guys want to go over to the Rumble channel and participate in the chat, we'll leave her unbanned for a little while. Let's just see what she does. She's like a thing that we can like play with that will entertain us, because she's that pathetic. She's been trying so hard to get people to talk about me again, and no one cares. And you know what? I fucking love it. I fucking love that literally no one cares. Carrie Smith doesn't care, and James doesn't care, and the Queen doesn't care. None of them care, Jill. None of them care. Literally none of them care. Literally none of them care what you have to say, you fat fucking bitch. Yeah, Jill is her real name. I know her real name. Do you know? I also know what she looks like. You guys want to see what she looks like before we get started? I got to download the picture. I got to go find the picture. You guys are going to love this. If you've never seen what Poetry Bitch looks like before, you guys are going to love this. Do 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 do. You guys are going to love this. Hang on. Got the picture. Just got to find my streaming page now. Where is it? There it is. Do 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 do. Bam! That's what she looks like. Do you know how I know that? Because when this woman first started stalking me in 2020, this woman has now been stalking me for 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024, 2020. This woman's been stalking me for 6 fucking years. Do you know how I know who she is? Because when she first started stalking me, she sent me a message on Facebook using her real name. And every day since then, even though I blocked her on a different account, even though I told her I didn't want to interact with her, even though I told her I didn't want to talk to her, this bitch has stalked me every day of my life for 6 fucking years. And she will not go away because she is obsessed with me, as evidenced by the fact that she is overrunning her mouth in the Rumble chat right now. And if you ever see people come in and instantly start making like nonsense in the YouTube chat, it's probably her too. She has like 700 fucking YouTube accounts, because as soon as we ban one YouTube account, she creates another YouTube account to come cause more problems on YouTube. And this is all she does. And she's desperately trying to get people to talk about me right now. She's desperately trying to get people to call me an anti-Semite. She's desperately trying to rope me in with all of the riffraff. And she can't do it. Because no one is biting. Because no one cares, Jill. No one cares. You lost. I won. I have more supporters than ever. And there ain't shit you can do about it, because you have never done anything productive in your life. You have never built anything in your life. You have never created anything in your life. You are a woman that doesn't leave the fucking house because you do this all day, every day. And that's why you've been obsessively stalking me for 6 fucking years, you fat fucking bitch. She is severely mentally ill. She is severely mentally ill. Oh no, guys. Oh no. Jill is telling me, one day someone's gonna sue you into oblivion. Hey, Jill. Do you know what the best defense against defamation is, Jill? The fact that I only use primary source evidence and I have receipts for every single thing that I say. Oh, I'm a child abuser. I don't know how that works because I don't have children. Which child did I abuse exactly, Jill? Which child did I abuse exactly? Because I don't have kids. Yeah. Joke's on her. I'm into that. Oh no, Wolf. Oh no. Anyway. I am blocking Jill now on Rumble forever. Bye. And we're gonna go listen to this American Life episode now. Sorry for the yeah. Well, yeah, she uses confusion on self. Yeah, like she does a lot of things. Sorry you guys had to see that picture. I know it was deeply traumatic for everyone. All right, let's actually dig into this episode of This American Life. Let's see what was said and what was not said.
This message comes from BRICS. Finance leaders face a brutal
Rex?
truth when managing company spend. Control or
Curse words that are unbeeped.
focus on the business. Over 30,000 companies run on BRICS. Join them at BRICS.com.
A quick warning, there are curse words that are unbeeped in today's episode of the show. If you prefer a beeped version, you can find that at our website.
I'm gonna clip that and put that as an introduction to my streams. There are curse words in today's show that will not be bleeped.
thisamericanlife.org.
This American Life from Ira Glass. And we've been talking here at the radio show recently about a certain genre of movie, which is the making of movie. A movie about the making of another film, usually a much more famous one. A classic is Hearts of Darkness, which is a making of documentary about the film Apocalypse Now, which has footage that the director Francis Ford Coppola's wife Eleanor shot at the time the movie was being filmed. Plus, incredibly, these recordings that she made of her husband without him knowing it, where he's talking about his self-doubt, his despair.
This film is a $20 million disaster. I'm thinking of shooting myself.
There are candid moments with the actors, Dennis Hopper, Lawrence Fishburne, who was 14 years old when they were making that film. Martin Sheen, who plays the main character, has a heart attack when they're there. 36. Marlon Brando, the film's most expensive star. At some point, Coppola realizes that Brando has not read the book that the movie is based on, Heart of Darkness. So he does not get who his character is. He's being paid $1 million a week. And all throughout, there are hints and glimpses of what's really happening in reality in the place that they're filming this movie. They're in the Philippines, where a U.S.-supported autocrat is fighting a war against a communist insurgency. The movie's helicopters are U.S.-made choppers.
Guys, no, I'm not gonna say it.
By pilots in the Philippine
military.
military.
Nothing to see
Who
here.
keep getting pulled away to go back to the real war.
Wait a second, stand by. We just heard they're taking away 5 of our helicopters. Should we do it?
The film Apocalypse Now is about Vietnam, but it's a big mythic version of Vietnam, full of larger-than-life characters. The making of film reveals the normal-sized people building this grand cathedral, brick by brick. You see the ridiculous lengths everybody had to go through to create their pretend war. And
By the way, I just want everyone to really understand how this works. The narrator that you're hearing, he didn't come to the Portland ICE facility. The narrator that you're hearing on this episode, and this is true of like all NPR shows like this, he's an actor. He is an actor, doll. He is what they call at NPR. At NPR, they call him the talent. He is the on-air talent, darling. He just shows up and a producer hands him a script and he literally just reads off the script. He wasn't in Portland. He never went to Portland. I was walking around with his producer and his producer's assistant. He was nowhere to be seen because he is an actor, the talent that just shows up to read the lines he's been given by the producer.
fake, impossible Vietnam. Which brings me to today's radio show. Today's show is a making of a different kind. It's people creating a picture of a place and a war that's happening there. And that place is Portland, Oregon. We're going to talk about Portland as a concept.
So what I'm going to say,
what the city has come to.
Leading into this, the biggest criticism that I heard from Ocean Plot, and again, we're going to keep an open mind. The biggest criticism that I heard from Ocean Plot that actually has me more upset than this producer saying I'm a so-called analyst or whatever the fuck. He basically said the producer didn't cover anything. The episode didn't cover anything for months and months and months leading up to what it is now. Where all they did was paint it as a bunch of right-wing crazy people coming up to cause problems and causing violence, but they didn't cover anything that happened. Not the multiple reporters that have been beat up, not the people that not the people that have just been standing there just like recording, because there were a lot of real journalists there, separate from the MAGA retards. Like, they didn't cover any of the nonsense for months leading up to it. Yeah, Reagan says it doesn't really cover that. And I think that's part of the problem, because, listen, I would have actually no problem with the framing that the MAGA retards are there to cause problems, to provoke confrontation in order to have drama content that's being streamed for the internet. That is actually true. It is also true that there were real journalists there, and most of those real journalists have now been driven away by the MAGA retards. You have people like Honey Badger Mom. You have people like Katie Davis Court. You have people like Matt Adams. You have people like Ocean Plot. You have people that were out there that were not out there to cause problems, that were literally just standing there holding a camera, documenting what was happening. Those are the real journalists. Those are the real ones. They weren't there to insert themselves in the story. They're not professional streamers on the fucking internet. They're actually covering a topic. And then you have the MAGA retard faction that, again, I like Tommy. Tommy's fine. Tommy is leading a faction of MAGA retards, though. And those people are just there to cause problems and to create content because they are professional streamers on the internet, and all they ever do, and I'm starting to become convinced of this. Listen, you have someone like a Cam Higbee. Cam Higbee isn't necessarily provoking problems. He's not. He's there covering what's happening. He does ask questions, but like when I saw Cam Higbee wasn't one of the people provoking problems. I'm talking about the MAGA streamers who are purely there just to own the libs so they can get a video of themselves going viral on the internet. I will be incredibly critical of these people because I think that those people have completely fucked up every good thing that was happening in Portland. Those people have driven the real journalists out because they don't want to be there anymore. And those people are there and they are provoking unnecessary problems. They are being like destructive. They are, being unwilling to basically just like be normal fucking people. And so I would have no problem with the framing that the MAGA retards are causing problems at the ICE facility. Where I have a problem is in the complete obfuscation of every single thing leading up to this point. Because for months and months and months and months, if NPR had bothered to do any of their own fucking research, for months and months and months leading up to this, Antifa was being aggressively violent with people. Antifa was physically attacking people. Shelley got attacked. Katie Davis Court got attacked. There were and those two were literally just standing there filming. Antifa's out there deliberately provoking ICE to get them to cause problems in the neighborhood so they can go to the city to get their lease pulled. And none of that gets covered because the producer is an intellectually dishonest leftist. But it's the MAGA retards. It's like, be honest about both sides, at least. You guys at NPR, you claim to be the intellectually superior. You claim to be the morally righteous. You're not covering both sides of the fucking story. So no, you are not intellectually superior and you are not morally righteous. There's a whole backstory that led up to the situation that exists there today that they left out fucking completely. Because it is a group. It's a decentralized group that has attributes. Antifa is a decentralized group that has attributes that you can define people's membership in the group based on their behaviors. It is a very specific segment of far left revolutionaries that do very specific things, like dress up in black bloc, like do surveillance culture, like do direct actions, like have certain types of weapons, like bricks and umbrellas and things like that. So you can define Antifa based on their behaviors, but are they an explicit organization in terms of like a hierarchy? No, they're not that at all. They're a highly decentralized network of like thousands of cells, basically, but you can define them based on their behavior.
Mean in this political moment. Back in September, you may remember, President Trump declared on Truth Social that he was going to send troops into what he called war-ravaged Portland to protect ICE facilities there that were, quote, under siege from attack by Antifa. Portland came to his attention, he said, by chance.
You know, that was not on my list, Portland, but when I watched television last night, this has been going on.
Protesters had actually been outside the ICE facility since June.
So
But Fox News, the night before,
all good.
they ran a story about Portland. And one thing about Fox's coverage, including that story, is that Fox's coverage includes lots of footage of protesters that is not filmed by professional TV news crews, but by the real auteurs behind the right wing's idea of what Portland is. These are right-wing citizen journalists who've been there at the protests, covering them more than anybody, especially live streamers who were there. These are people who believe in Trump, believe in ICE, who streamed from the Portland protests, saying that their lefty local government was soft on the protesters, letting Antifa run amok, live streaming on YouTube and X.
All these people right here are the Antifa of Portland, all in black.
You come back, I'm gonna fucking smoke you, dude.
Really?
Yeah.
Some of the citizen journalists became regular guests on Fox, talking about this.
For people who say that there's not violence going on in front of these facilities, what do you say?
It's a complete lie. There's lots of violence going on. I mean, these people are very dangerous and they're unhinged. Just the other night.
And a week and a half after the president declared Portland to be war-ravaged and under siege, he invited the...
I wouldn't say that Nick Shirley is a regular streamer there. Nick Shirley's been there a couple times, but to say he's a regular streamer is just like, well, he is a regular streamer, but he doesn't spend all his time in Portland. He goes everywhere.
These streamers to the White House for a roundtable on Antifa. It was remarkable.
At least 3 of these.
Well, the streamers that he brought to the White House are a very specific kind of streamer. The streamers that are out there causing the problems are not the ones he invited to the White House. You want the transcript?
Courageous journalists have personally been victims of Antifa attacks.
Trump sat at the center of a U-shaped table with about a dozen of these reporters and streamers for an hour and a half. And flanking Trump at the table, on his immediate left and right, was the full political and law enforcement firepower of the federal government. Kristi Noem, head of the Department of Homeland Security, head of the FBI, Kash Patel, Attorney General Pam Bondi, Secretary of State, Marco Rubio.
I swear to God, if this fucking podcast says that Chandler is the leader of Antifa, I'm gonna... If this show says that Chandler is the leader of Antifa, because I know they interview Chandler in this show. I know that Chandler gets a good long segment, which I'm sure he was pleased with. If they say he's the leader of fucking Antifa, I am going to lose it. Oh, it's covered. Okay, they discuss it.
Much better.
After the president's opening remarks, Kristi Noem, head of DHS, fresh off the plane from Portland herself, talked directly to the streamers.
I want to thank the new journalists here today for telling their stories and for being able and willing to go to the streets and to cover what's happening here in America. Many times the legacy media has looked the other way, refused to tell the stories and how this network of Antifa is just as sophisticated as MS-13, as TDA,
Belly
as
got
ISIS,
mentioned?
as
Oh,
Hezbollah,
no.
as Hamas, as all of them.
Oh,
When the streamers
no,
spoke, it was in
Belly.
apocalyptic terms about Antifa, this supposed global network of anti-government, anti-fascists. Streamers talked not just about being personally assaulted by Antifa protesters.
Antifa, the supposed global network. See, this is why we need to map the modern left, because every time some stupid leftist podcast said something like the supposed network, I want to be like, it's a fucking map, you stupid bitch.
But putting their lives on the line every day. One streamer said that she genuinely believed that if the president had not declared war on Antifa, people at this table would have been killed. in
Oh,
Portland.
come on.
Here's one of the best-known citizen journalists covering Portland, Nick Sorter. He's been on Fox a bunch.
Frankly, the cities
Yeah, it's
and
been on
police
Fox a bunch.
departments
He has.
are cooperating with Antifa, such as Portland. It's sickening. I've seen it firsthand, obviously. And President Trump, you mentioned that flag. So remember, you put out a truth right after
True.
That's right. I saw that.
took this flag from that man that was burning it in the street.
I saw. Do you know who he is?
Oh yeah, I know exactly who it is. It's
So why don't you give it to Pam? Give it to the Attorney General, and let's start prosecutions.
The Attorney General, Pam Bondi, pipes in at that point to say she's already started an investigation. The purpose of all this, The point the administration was making with this event was that in Portland, these streamers and citizen journalists were proving that the threat to America from Antifa is real, and that a massive nationwide hunt was called for. And this didn't just mean sending troops into American cities like Portland.
Listen to the fucking music these fucking liberals are using. They're like, this is a made-up fantasy land where Antifa doesn't exist. And Antifa just means simply being merely anti-fascist. You know, I've been getting served on Instagram. I've been getting served all of this anti-ICE content lately. It just started popping up in my feed like a couple weeks ago. And now I'm getting more and more and more and more and more and more anti-ICE content on Instagram because I listen to it because I'm like, I want to see what the left says. But the anti-ICE content I'm getting is more directed at like progressives and liberals. It's not hardcore leftist stuff like what we watch. It's more like they're kidnapping your neighbors, and here is how you keep your neighbors safe, and here is how you make the life fair and beautiful for everyone. And I watched some of this anti-ICE content, and this anti-ICE content has 10,000 shares, thousands and thousands of comments, like probably hundreds of thousands or millions of views. And this anti-ICE, it's good propaganda, man. It's really good propaganda. And I can absolutely imagine a reality, probably the reality that the people who make this show exist in every day, where all that they consume is liberal and progressive propaganda that's being created to them and served to them. Now, the people at NPR aren't smart enough to know they're being propagandized too, which is really too bad. They think they're smarter than everyone else, but really they're just being propagandized and they're in a fucking cult. But if you're surrounded with that type of content all day, every day, and that's what you see on your social media, and that's what your friends are sharing, it creates a bubble where you actually believe that this crazy idea that Antifa is just being anti-fascist, guys. Like, it's like you believe that Antifa is not a real thing. You believe that none of the far left stuff that we spend our time watching, like hours a week on this channel, like that you really believe that none of that is real because it doesn't show up in your fucking Instagram feed.
It also meant treating Antifa as a domestic terror organization. The president had just named it that. And he ordered the National Joint Terrorism Task Force to create a national strategy to investigate and prosecute them with the FBI, the Justice Department, and other agencies, and to go after left-wing groups that it says are funding political violence. The speaker at this roundtable named some of them, like George Soros's Open Society Foundations, organizations who, of course, deny doing any such thing. Since then, prosecutions are underway. Just this week, the FBI claimed to have disrupted a bomb plot in Southern California by anti-capitalist anarchist leftists.
The FBI claim to have this is the trickery of language that these leftist shills use. They claim to have done this. Well, no, actually, no. I mean, listen, we can argue whether or not what happened with the Turtle Island Liberation Front is a psyop or not. I think there's good arguments to be made for either side. I think the FBI probably did give them the bomb making materials and all that. But the fact is that the left talks about violence all the time in their propaganda, and they're very fucking clear about it. And so, like, it's kind of like, do I have a hard time believing that the left is going to engage in violence? No, not at all, not in any way. And I don't think it's like the FBI claimed they were going to bomb people, but really they were just going to set off a really interactive fireworks display. It's like what the fuck, NPR?
With a group called the Turtle Island Liberation Front. To be clear, there is no question that there are violent leftist groups in our country, just like there are violent groups on the right. But there were already laws in place.
Just like there are violent groups on the right, I wish.
That's been one of the FBI's jobs forever. This is a new kind of crackdown at a new scale, targeted only at political violence on the left. America is a big country. We all, when the president on
what political environment, like what political violence exists on the right now? I'm asking an honest question. And listen, there are extremely toxic people on the right. I'm not questioning whether or not toxic individuals exist on the right. I hate a lot of people who are on the right. But what group is actually being violent? Are they still talking about January 6th? Is this still about January 6th? Honestly, are they like, honestly, is like, yeah, they're talking about like prison skinheads, like who, like who are they talking about? if there was a group of right-wing, like, neo-Nazi racists that were actually being violent, I would be the very first ones to say, that's not a productive use of time. You shouldn't do that shit. But I just can't think of anything.
Down, rely on images and words from other people to understand what's going on elsewhere. And a vision of Portland, a movie about Portland, as a place that's war-ravaged, a hub for Antifa, ripe for military intervention. That story, promulgated by these streamers and citizen journalists, amplified on right-wing TV and social media, that story is justification for all these law enforcement policies all over the country today. Along with another story, of course, the assassination of Charlie Kirk. We wanted to see Portland for ourselves. We wanted to see the making of this story about what Portland is.
Well, there was no we, Ira, because you weren't there. Your producer and the producer's assistant were there. There ain't no we.
The reality, the behind the scenes, turns out not just to be very different, but a lot more interesting than the thing that they're filming and the story that they're telling.
That's true. Actually,
Stay with
that's
us.
true. Yeah. I agree with that.
Support for This American Life and the following message come from AT&T.
No.
Okay, so some basic facts before we head off to Portland. The way the president has described Portland, it might sound like an entire city under siege. But
I'm
I think the
nervous.
first thing we need to clarify in this making of is that the entire conflict between protesters and police, the entire war, is happening on exactly one city block outside an ICE facility.
That's true. Yep.
Pretty
true.
much every day since June, protesters have been there, opposing President Trump's immigration policies, like other protests around the country.
Well, listen, if we're being nitpicky and technical about it, there is a park about 3 blocks away from the Portland ICE facility where every weekend they do a protest in the park and then they march down the street to the Portland ICE facility and then they take over there. There have also been, they've blocked roadways and stuff like that in other parts of the city, but more or less like most of it is within a couple block radius around the ICE facility. That's actually very true.
Level of violence directed towards ICE is mostly blocking and slowing down their vehicles that are coming in and out. And small scuffles
Well, that's
where federal
not
police
exactly
fired
right,
tear
okay.
gas and pepper balls. There was one day in June when things flared up and were declared a riot. Protesters rammed a stop sign through a glass door, hit an ICE agent in the head with a rock. But that day was kind of a one-off. What it's been since then,
No, it's not
on any
actually a
given
one-off.
day,
That's not true.
it's anywhere from a half dozen to 200 people with music, chanting, bullhorns. During the daytime, it can have a kind of carnival performance art vibe. A street salsa class.
True.
People in inflatable frog costumes. There's a guy dressed like Bob Ross with an easel and a palette doing an oil painting of the ICE officers.
And by the way,
But
them doing that all serves a purpose. Because the reason that they do the costumes and they do the dancing and they do the aerobics and they do the things where they're mocking people. First of all, they're mocking ICE. They're mocking ICE with that. But like, secondly, the main thing that they're doing is they're trying to create an atmosphere that people feel safe coming to join them. And during the day, it is more or less safe there. During the day, like I never felt unsafe during the day. There were times at night when I felt unsafe. Like there was one time where I needed to go back to the hotel and I was staying at a hotel that was like literally, like it was a very short walk away. And there was a path like by, you guys may see like the railroad tracks when you're watching on the streams. There's basically a path by the railroad tracks that you can walk back to the hotel. And I could have gone down that path, but Antifa was standing there and I kind of didn't feel safe going down that path with them around there too. And so I ended up taking like the long, so there were things like that where like I constantly felt like I needed to kind of like watch my back. I never got too close to Antifa, especially at night, but like during the day, it's pretty much fine. Like you're not going to be in any danger. And the reason is they want people to come down and join them outside of the ICE facility.
This message comes from BRICS. Finance leaders face a brutal truth when
Why did it
what's going on
restart?
elsewhere. Like between protesters and police. Or a call with someone close. Voices, AT&T, connecting changes everything.
Restarted on its own.
This American Life, Act 1, Living the American Stream. Okay, so some basic facts before we head off to Portland. The way the president has described Portland, it might sound like an entire city under siege. But I think the first thing we need to clarify in this making of is that the entire conflict between protesters and police, the entire war, is happening on exactly one city block outside an ICE facility. Pretty much every day since June, protesters have been there, opposing President Trump's immigration policies, like other protests around the country. The level of violence directed towards ICE is mostly blocking and slowing down their vehicles that are coming in and out, and small scuffles where federal police fire tear gas and pepper balls. There was one day in June when things flared up and were declared a riot. Protesters rammed a stop sign through a glass door, hit an ICE agent in the head with a rock. But that day was kind of a one-off. What it's been since then, on any given day, is anywhere from a half dozen to 200 people, with music, chanting, bullhorns. During the daytime, it can have a kind of carnival performance art vibe.
They're still there.
A
They're
street
still
salsa
protesting.
class, people in inflatable frog costumes. There's a guy dressed like Bob Ross with an easel and a palette doing an oil painting of the ICE officers. But then at night, it can get more confrontational with ICE. Sometimes protesters have burned American flags, graffitied outside the building, shot fireworks. And it gets confrontational between the protesters and the streamers who mix it up with them. Usually they're anywhere between just a few streamers to maybe 30 or so. It gets really noisy and disruptive. And people living near the ICE facility complain to police about the noise. And when the streamers and citizen journalists say that the Portland police let all this happen, there's truth to that.
There is truth
They
to
haven't
that.
stopped protesters from blocking sidewalks,
True.
or surrounding and delaying ICE vehicles. They've allowed them to make noise. The judge ruled that it was okay.
It's not just blocking sidewalks. They've shut down the roads over and over and over again. They were running in. Like when I was there, they finally made a rule. Like the police finally made a rule saying you have to stay off the fucking streets, and if you come onto the fucking streets, we're going to arrest you. But leading up to that, they were shutting down the roads all the time. They were making all sorts of noise and all this stuff. All the residents were complaining. So again, like NPR is trying to diminish what was actually going on because they're trying to paint it as these leftists are just out there having a street party.
That was the state of things when one of our producers, Zoe Chase, flew to Portland in October with another producer, Suzanne Gaber.
Not Ira Glass.
Here's their story.
When we got there, it'd been about 2 weeks after the White House roundtable about Portland and Antifa. We got there after 10 on a Saturday night, late October. It was cold and rainy, but there are a lot of people out here wandering up and down the sidewalk. And it's not grimy protesters dragging furry tails in the mud, dancing to I Will Survive, or whatever I was picturing the campy Antifa Portland protest scene to be at this point. What we walk into is more like a Trump rally. USA! USA! I want you to picture.
Okay.
This is one long block with an ICE facility on one side and a tall apartment building on the other. 2 long sidewalks, a big
True.
street in the middle that leads to the old spaghetti factory. People are swarming both sides of the street, even late at night like this. There are a bunch of city cops in yellow slickers standing around. And all these people wandering around with their phones on long selfie sticks, talking into the phones and talking to each other. Some of these people Susan and I recognize from the White House roundtable or from appearances on Fox, but mainly I have no idea what I'm looking at. So we meet up with this one voluble streamer. She calls herself an analyst. Karlyn Borysenko. 128,000 subscribers on YouTube.
True.
And she's just pointing people out to us.
The guy in a mask is a MAGA guy. The guy with the yellow hat right there is Antifa. The guy with the flag is Antifa.
Normally, Karlyn's streaming from home. She's kind of a commentator about the streamers. She'll have like 4 different live videos up from 4 different live streamers. And it's like, camera 1, no, camera 2, while walking you through what or who to watch in the videos. Karlyn's a recovered lefty, now very much on the right. She considers herself an Antifa expert. She knows all these right-wing streamers and influencers, so she's a good person to follow around.
Well, JD DeLay is there. He's got like 1.6 million subscribers on YouTube. He's in the camo hat. And he's.
I also spot Nick Sorter, 1.3 million followers on X. Cam Higbee, 216,000 YouTube subscribers. They were both at the White House.
So like a lot of people out here, it's kind of like they're just showing what's happening. And I think a lot of people out here are trying to get the best footage they can, regardless of what side they're on.
And what do they, why? Do you know what I mean? Like, why? It's not as though it's not covered.
We're in a reality show, right now. And you can see the reality show from that angle or down there. I watch the live streams for hours and hours in time on my YouTube channel when I'm at home, and it's like you have all these different angles. You can skip around, see what's. It's like, you know what it's like. It's like the Big Brother house where you can go in the kitchen or the bedroom just to kind of spy on.
It's
people.
all true.
Same thing,
That's
except we're
biased.
actually in it, and it's addictive after a while. It's like you start like there are characters in this story. There are people that are here all the time.
Yeah, I am.
So you get kind of like endeared to some of them.
There's a reason so many right-wing streamers are in the same place at the same time the weekend that we're here. Since the White House Roundtable, more and more of these streamers have been showing up here. Then recently,
to be really clear, I was there because I was going to a series of events on the West Coast, and I said, as long as I'm on the West Coast anyway, I may as well go to Portland, because why wouldn't I? Of course I would. So that's why I was there. It was a happy accident of timing where I went to San Francisco to do some stuff and go undercover at an event there. I then flew to Seattle to do some stuff and went undercover at an event there, went to a whole bunch of bookstores there, got a whole bunch of cool stuff. And then I went to Portland, because why wouldn't I go to Portland if I'm like that close to it anyway?
ICE protesters did this thing, which was put up a poster with a bunch of right-wing influencers' faces and handles and real names on it, saying, "Don't take the bait," meaning like, don't give these guys content that they'll use as propaganda. The streamers saw that and were like, okay, well, we're now all going to come at once, and we're going to make a lot of videos of you weirdos.
Yeah, they 100%
calling it Patriot
undercut
Weekend.
what I do. Yeah. Of course they had to.
Some people are just standing around smoking and talking in the rain.
And by the way, I gave Zoe a really good quote about that I'm sure is not going to make it in here. And this is kind of like the point that I'm making with this. Zoe asked me, she's like, well, how do you define Antifa, Karlyn? So she says like, oh, Karlyn considers herself to be some sort of expert. She completely, of course, didn't leave the part where she asked me, how do you define Antifa? And I gave her a big old explanation about the Trump executive order doesn't define Antifa well, because you have to define Antifa based on their behaviors. They're a decentralized, non-hierarchical organization. You can expect to see them engaging in black bloc, security culture, blah, 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 like all the things that we talk about all the time. I gave her a really specific definition of Antifa, and I'm sure because I didn't say to her, well, they're all on the far left, or some stupid conservative retard answer, they just cut out my beautiful definition of what Antifa is, and she frames it in terms of like, she just wants to say that she's an Antifa expert. Okay, I think, Zoe, I probably know a little bit more about Antifa than you, and I think I know the definition of Antifa where you don't even know what the fuck you're talking about, and so I'm just saying, the so-called expert, okay.
And then these big circles form out of what seems like nowhere, with people pushing and yelling like a playground fight.
You ain't listening to that pedophile music, bro.
With all these other people jostling to film the fight in the middle of the circle, which is a yelling fight, to be clear, usually not a fist fight. And the people inside the circle are filming themselves being filmed and streaming that live to their followers. It's a circle of people and phones in a fight. I walk up to a group like this, try to push my way inside to see what's in the center. It looks like a dude in a bulletproof vest streaming a video of himself, yelling at a guy with a Captain America shield.
Stolen valor, we just proved it. It's disgusting. You're a liar.
Apparently, thousands of people are watching this online right now. Karlyn and I elbow our way into a different crowd, but at the center, nothing's happening. It seems like some fight has just ended, and the streamers who are watching the fight start talking to each other about whatever that fight was about. It's funny, like now they're just doing like a talk show of what just happened.
And that happens a lot. It's like, it's one of those things, again, it's like, it's a spectacle, right? Mm-hmm. You know, there's something going on over here, but then you get to run over there, and maybe you get to provoke something over here, and you just never know what's going to happen, you know?
That's why I'm hippie MAGA. I'm different.
This is another rando chiming in. He's dressed like the dude from The Big Lebowski in a full robe with beads. What's hippie MAGA?
Just about trying to connect and
I do
trying to
remember
make
that
more
guy now.
agreements and
Okay.
trying to win through domination.
The NPR fact checker asked me about that guy. He said, "Do you remember seeing someone that was like dressed like the Big Lebowski?" I was like, "Deborah, I have no idea what you're talking about, but maybe that happened. I don't know, but I do remember now, actually."
I just talked to whoever, basically. Yeah, got interviewed by the Crow earlier over there.
Who's the Crow?
I have no idea. Some internet Crow
Lots of handles flying around that I don't know. Karlyn looks around. Is there something people are like waiting for now? Like, what is everyone doing here? You know what I mean? It's like 10:30. It's really cold and rainy.
Yeah. Well, you can see something's about to happen over there. It looks like a whole bunch of people are walking over there. So I don't know what's about to happen, but
go see.
Let's go see. Uh-oh. Everyone is just standing around with their phones.
Yeah, because it's like if there's no fight at some point, then there's nothing really to film. Right?
Yeah.
So like at some point something has to happen, or there's nothing to see.
And you know what I've kind of seen is it's like,
And
okay,
putting out there, shame on you.
okay,
Shame. Shame.
oh, a crazy person, and that's where Pam. You can't really. It's hard to tell what's happening. So basically, the producer and I were walking down the sidewalk, and fucking Pam Tifa. Pam comes up and starts yelling at me, and I couldn't for the life of me figure out what the fuck Pam was upset about. But I kind of like I think it was because I was on Fox News, I think, the day before, and I think Pam was pissed off that I was on Fox News or something like that. So she just comes up to me and she's like, "You should be ashamed." I'm like, "Of what, Pam?" She's like, "You should be ashamed." I'm like, "I have no idea what you're talking about, Pam." Let's listen to that again.
Happen, or there's nothing to see.
And you know what I've kind of seen is it's like,
And
okay,
putting out there, shame on you.
okay,
Shame. Shame.
Pam is a crazy person, and she likes to come and yell.
You're
at
not a
people.
psychologist. Now someone comes up and starts scolding Karlyn, an older lady, infamous on X, the MAGA granny. She went to prison for storming the Capitol on January 6th, but she's flipped, and now she's at every anti-Trump event you can think of. The right-wingers call her Pam Tifa.
I don't even know what you're talking about. What are you upset about, Pam? That was funny. All right.
The big streamers can have tens of thousands of people watching.
If that's my biggest part in this whole story, I'm completely okay. I'm satisfied with the things that were included in this story. I am not satisfied with them saying she claims to be an analyst or she's some sort of Antifa expert. I mean, I guess I don't mind being talked about as an Antifa expert, obviously. Even though Antifa is not the full extent of what I do. I'm not anti-no or anything, for many reasons, like not the least of which is I actually live in the United States and I actually do real journalism. What I cover is so much broader than Antifa because the far left is not just Antifa. Antifa is a very specific part of the far left. But I have no problem, and I cover a much more broad part of the far left, but I have no problem with being called an Antifa expert, but when it's done with the tone of she's some sort of Antifa, I'm like, you know what? Like, literally go fuck yourself. Honestly. I don't ask a lot, man. I don't ask a lot. But I have worked extremely hard to develop the knowledge base that I have. I try very hard to be balanced in what I do. I try very hard to be nuanced in my analysis. And when that's not appreciated by people who claim to be intellectually superior to me, I'm just like, you know what? Maybe take a fucking seat, Zoe. Maybe take a seat.
Them at one time, depending on what's going on. And they make real money from that. From paid subscribers. Fans tip them in real time. One streamer out here tonight, he got into this after streaming Fortnite. This pays more, he told us, being out here. Another streamer, Tommy Boy, quit his job in local government. He says he makes more money streaming. But most streamers are more like Mike Ross, an out-of-town streamer. I followed him around for hours. He says he made money on crypto, so this is a hobby for him, not a job. Not yet, anyway. He's a very tall white guy in a big brown sweatshirt with a phone on a tripod so he can film from really high up. He's a mental health advocate and a disabled veteran. He goes by Mentally Idaho on X. He's relatively new here, relatively few followers, 6,000. His vibe is high school football coach.
I flew back this weekend for Patriot Weekend.
Thank you.
Just filming and live streaming and trying to get angles that other people don't get because I can do this and record what other people can't do.
Yeah, you have like a big fishbowl. You can get up really high.
Yeah,
Plus,
so,
you're tall.
Yeah, so I kind of do stuff like that. What do you think of all the chaos?
I just got here, honestly.
But you don't have an answer. I don't have the answer.
Mike said this thing about the way people talk to each other here, how mean and juvenile and graphic and vulgar it is. It's really like walking around inside social media, like we're in the comments section in real life. Remember, every person streaming here is not alone. They have this invisible mob surrounding them, sometimes animating them like a video game avatar. Mike's chat points him in various directions, saying, go here, go there, collaborating and making things happen that turn into content. While I'm there with Mike, one of the streamers gets arrested, and his wife is really upset. Mike tells her they're going to get help from the chat.
Say it again.
They said that he might have to pay bail to get out.
Okay. People want to know how to give money. So in a minute, we'll walk down to Tommy's chat.
Listen, I want to say this about the money. It is very true that, listen, man, I made a lot of money covering the protests. I did. It was nice. It was so nice. And the money I made covering the protests allowed me to go undercover in October. And it allowed me to go undercover again the other week when I was out in San Francisco. And the money I made during the protests allowed me to buy all that cool leftist, like historical stuff that I bought when I was in San Francisco. Like it was fucking nice. And I bought myself a really expensive purse, or maybe 2 really expensive purses. I did all that, and it was really, really nice. But what I will say about the money with streaming is that, and I'm hyper conscious of this because I've been making content on the internet for a while, is that the internet is in waves, right? So there might be times where you make a lot of money, and there are times, and then it'll go back down, and then it'll come back up again. It'll go back down and come back up again. And that is what the internet is like. And it's like, can you stem the tide between, like right now during Christmas, like I'm not going to make a lot in super chats over the next couple of weeks because everyone has just spent all their money on Christmas. And that's true every single year. Just very, very predictably, people aren't watching as many streams. They aren't giving as many super chats. So it's like, you hope that when you have like busier times of year, like if you are covering protests and you are doing longer live streams and you are making more money, you hope that the times things are going really well, like level out with the times where it's not going so well. And I'm very, very lucky because I have a subscriber base and I have a supporter base on my Substack where like I have other sources of income. I have my merchandise store, I have books that I sell and stuff like that. A lot of the people streaming, and shout out Ocean Plot in the chat. Appreciate you guys. Everyone make sure you're following Ocean Plot because he's one of the good ones. He's one of the real ones in Portland. Most of the people that are out there streaming do not have the support base that I have. And quite frankly, that even goes for people like JD Delay. I don't know what JD Delay has going on the side. Like if streaming is JD Delay's like only source of income, I may actually, in some respects, do better than him, even though he has 1 million followers and I only have 128,000, right? And so the money aspect is like for a lot of these people that just showed up and just took their phone out and they decided they were going to be a streamer on the internet. Like I do worry about Tommy because Tommy has no idea. Oh, come back. Okay, we're back. I worry about Tommy because Tommy has no idea what streaming is like on a consistent basis over the long term. For the short term, if you get like really famous on the internet, you can make a lot of money very, very quickly. But that all fades away and people move on to the next thing. We've even seen that this year with covering the far left, where I had huge audiences in June. And then they started going down. And they started going down because the media cycle changed. People moved on to other things. And then I had huge audiences again after Charlie Kirk got assassinated. The audience like off the charts. And in the inner room, like we do overall get more supporters. And I've never had more supporters than I have right now. But I guess what I'm trying to say is, I am in a different position than many of the people streaming, where I have over the course of years set up multiple sources of income because I know there will be times when I just don't make the money streaming that I would need to make. And if I were just doing the streaming, there's no way I could do this full time. And I don't think a lot of the people out there are really prepared for that. They just see the super chats rolling in and they've got they've got dollar signs in their eyes. And it's like, if you're not doing this for some higher purpose, it is a grind. It's a grind. I do what I do because I have a higher purpose. I want to teach people about the far left. I want to create this whole like archive of leftist content. I have a higher thing that I'm working for. I am not just trying to make content on the internet. I make content on the internet as a way of engaging people with my overall work and to teach people what I know and to spread the wealth of information. But if I was just a streamer on the internet, I don't think I would be able to do this full time. And I think a lot of the people who show up at stuff like this and they think they're just going to become millionaires overnight, they're going to become Tim Pool or something. They're in for a rude awakening, man.
And you can talk to both chats about that, okay? You have a Venmo or cash?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll get you set up.
My phone's about to die.
Hang on. Check this out. USB-C or Lightning?
C.
There you go.
Whoa, there you go.
There you go. Breathe. Do me a favor and take some deep breaths.
Mike sees himself as a helper. He got into activism around mental health issues after a hospital staff, he says, medicated him against his will. He's been diagnosed with PTSD.
Severe complex PTSD comes from a life of trauma. So ever since I have borderline personality. Ever since I was a kid, I've been traumatized. I've been abused. I've been picked on. I've been beaten.
Also,
So
I
my whole
saw
life,
Shelly in the
then
chat.
I go become a Marine.
Shout
and
out
learn to stand up
Shelly.
for myself.
Love you.
Stand up for other people. You stand up for the weak, for the vulnerable. So that kind of propelled me into use my abilities and my skills to help people.
A lot of people I talked to out here had oddly similar stories. Tough childhood, and then some life-defining, very American trauma that seemed to explain what they were doing down here. The war in Afghanistan, the financial crisis, the COVID lockdowns, January 6th. And each of these people seemed to find an antidote of sorts to those events via this streaming thing, recording this real-life, live-action, political video game, being one of the good guys, finding a community of people not just online, but in real life, but in an online sort of way. A little audience who cares about what you care about and thinks what you're doing is important.
Yeah, I think that this is actually a really kind of like important point, Maddox. I feel like Zoe still feels NPR is a AAA news source when streams from Honey Badger Mom are way more honest and give the audience permission to create a point of view while NPR makes your point of view for you. This is a really, really important point because NPR is trying to frame this entire narrative for you. They're inserting those words like so-called journalist, so-called expert. They claim to have done this to try to frame like, are they really telling the truth? Because they're trying to make it seem like everything is like fake and gay. And there is a lot of fake and gay stuff in relation to this issue. And I will actually like definitely acknowledge that. But there's also like the reason that I liked watching the stream so much, it wasn't that I was just watching a reality show, although I do think of it as a reality show and I don't take any of that back. The reason you watch the streams is you're going directly to the source of information and you're looking at what's going on from multiple angles. The reason that it's valuable to be there in person, and I viewed myself again as like a detached person. I'm not on anyone's team at all. I wanted to be able to see for myself what was happening directly on the ground from multiple different angles. When you don't have that filtered for you, you get to develop your own perspective around what is happening, whereas NPR is trying to frame the narrative for their audience to give them only one perspective. You watch the streams, you could very well come away with the same perspective that NPR has. You can come away with the perspective that I have. You can come away with the perspective that Tommy has or Honey Badger, like anyone else has. Or you can just like develop your own thoughts and maybe it's a mix of all the different perspectives. But at least you're going directly to the source of information and you're thinking for yourself rather than having these douchey, like self-righteous elitists hand feed you a narrative that goes along with their political agenda.
For example, like with Mike, he's not getting along with his wife right now. Talks about that openly with his chat. She doesn't want him here streaming. She thinks he could get himself into some kind of vigilante violence situation. Mike is like,
I
that's
know
not
who she's
me.
talking to now.
And
He
the
blocked
chat is
me on Twitter 'cause
supportive.
he's an
They
asshole.
ask questions. They talk about their lives. Mike's reading the comments out loud.
I was spiraling in the drain. It took a big family push, but I got help. I'm still here. Still have some very rough times, but I'm still here. That's awesome, man.
See, that's in the chat.
Well, they said I was on the right.
Some
they didn't say I was a
streamers are
Republican.
very
They said I was on
committed
the
to
right, which is true. I am
documenting.
on the right.
Like Mike, some people come here to
I'm not part of
argue
the tribe.
with the other side. Some are in it for the thrill of it. Like a streamer named Mo told me he used to be addicted to meth, but now he's addicted to streaming. Some people are trolls. They're here to rile the protesters up into doing something that makes them look dumb or violent.
True.
Something fascinating that happens, though, when you're watching those guys is lots of times they're trying to prove that the protesters are the cause of the violence. But in fact, when you look at the footage, often what the footage reveals is exactly the opposite.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, man. That's absolutely true. NPR is absolutely telling the truth. And I said this back at the time. I kind of like glossed it over first, but like once I started getting attacked by like JD DeLay and Enrique Tarrio and the whole MAGA retard crew, I was absolutely clear about what I thought happened. And I showed footage to this effect, which is the MAGA people were starting fucking fights in order to provoke Antifa. It wasn't Antifa starting the fights with them. Antifa was going, okay, they were trying to like de-escalate the situation. I have this all on video. Whereas those MAGA retards, and by the way, there are the actual journalists that are out there, they agree with me on this point. They just don't always say it because it would get them in trouble, and that's fine. They don't always have to. I'll be the one to say the thing that no one else wants to say. The MAGA retards were starting fights with Antifa in order to provoke problems, to go viral on the internet, to do whatever. So I absolutely agree with that. Now, that's not the only thing that happened, and it's also not true that like Antifa was also starting fights with people. Antifa was breaking people's phones. Antifa was stealing people's stuff. Antifa was hitting people in the head with flagpoles. So Antifa was also being violent. I'm not suggesting that none of the leftists out there were being violent, because that's not true either. But it is absolutely true that MAGA retards were starting fights just for content on the internet. And I knew this was going to happen because, and I mentioned this, the night that the producer was there was the night where Tommy and the MAGA retards stormed down to Chandler's apartment to try to take over Chandler's apartment in the middle of the night. And you guys know I have that all on video. I have like a 20-minute video of that on the channel. You can go back and find it because I was right there. I filmed the whole thing. I didn't live stream the whole thing, but I filmed the whole thing, and I talked to Chandler at the end of it, and he answered some questions and stuff like that. But like I knew that was going to come across really badly. I knew this was going to happen. And I was sitting there thinking, I'm standing right next to this NPR producer, and I'm thinking, this is not going to turn out well. And you know what? There's nothing I can do about it. I'm not the leader of the MAGA retards in Portland. Tommy is the leader of the MAGA retards in Portland. And JD DeLay was egging people on, and that fucking Chad guy was egging people on. And it's like, man, this is why we can't have anything nice. Because the MAGA retards destroy the ability of the rest of us to maintain the high road, and it makes us all look stupid.
It shows clearly that some of the violence would not be happening at all if the streamers weren't there. Here's an example from the night that we were there. Before we got there, these guys, Ryan and Cam, were filming themselves, tried to come into this canopy tent the protesters set up on the sidewalk as a sort of home base. A protester in a black helmet.
Okay, that's not accurate, Zoe. That Zoe's trying to make it seem like they just had a little tent on the sidewalk. No. They took over an entire fucking block of sidewalk and made one big, long mutual aid tent. They covered up a fire hydrant. They weren't letting anyone actually use the sidewalk. You would get the shit beat out of you, or you would get your phone stolen if you tried to walk down one of the sidewalks on that street. They had all their shit out there like a fucking homelessness encampment, and they were camped out there for a while. It wasn't just one little fucking canopy of a tent. It was an entire fucking sidewalk of mutual aid tent. And by the way, and I'm sure this wasn't mentioned, I actually showed NPR, the fucking producers, photos of needles that were taken out of that fucking tent, because that was the night. Was that the night, or was it the night before? I forget which. It must have been that night. That was the night that the tent came down, I think. And in the tent, when it came down, there were fucking boxes of needles and drugs. And I took pictures of it and I showed them to the NPR producers, but I'm sure that never made it into it because we need to pay Antifa as just a couple happy people that just have a little teeny tent on the corner, not a fucking drug den mutual aid tent where they're taking up the entire fucking sidewalk. The producers saw the pictures. 100%. And by the way, I can go back and find those pictures if I need to, Zoe.
With a red anarchist sticker on it, steps in front of them.
Hey guys.
No fascists allowed in camp. No
Well,
fascists allowed.
Good thing I'm not a fascist.
A protester in a fuzzy skeleton suit glares at them. I'm getting medical treatment, she says, to the phones looming
How are they
over
getting
her.
medical treatment?
What are you getting treated for?
Just a little
Herpes?
Whoa.
And then, in a sort of I'll huff and I'll puff and I'll blow your house down move, Ryan and some streamers just bust through the tent as a group to make the point that this is a public sidewalk.
Yes,
Which
it was
it
a public
is.
sidewalk.
They are correct.
Yes.
But a guy in shark pajamas is almost knocked to the ground. As everyone spills out of the tent all together, you hear the protesters cry assault.
If someone was almost knocked to the ground, it's because they were trying to prevent people from walking down the fucking sidewalk to keep them out of their drug tent.
And Ryan says he got maced and pours water on his face.
No one got me.
Later, Ryan took a leaf blower from the protesters' supplies and moved it down the street. I asked him about what he was doing. Like, what's the idea behind what he's even doing?
Yeah.
Took a leaf blower?
Yeah, I grabbed a leaf blower.
Why did
I
they have a
moved it
leaf
50
blower in
feet
their
down
tent?
here.
Okay, so you just moved it. You didn't
Oh,
take
I just did it to piss him off.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying. Ryan's a former Trump campaign guy and a former college football player. He's big and broad. Ryan has a track record here. The Portland police have noted that he reported he'd been attacked by protesters. He was surrounded by more than 15 of them and then pepper sprayed while on the ground one time. And the police have also seen him, quote, antagonizing the protesters until assaulted, end quote. His ex-bio reads, right-wing provocateur.
For example, some guy goes, "Oh, F you, fascist." I'm like, "Oh, seriously?" And I'll walk up in their face and say, "What do you want?" And then they'll push me, and I'll push them right back, and they fall to the ground.
That's provocative. And then
Sure.
that leads to
That's
violence.
1 night out of an entire summer, though.
So you don't think, even though you call yourself a provocateur, you don't think you're really provoking them?
With my physical actions, no, but my presence, yes. Yeah.
And is the point of that in order to make them react so that you can prove your point that they are violent?
It's to prove my point that they think they own the city, and it's my point. I do it to
on.
to take away their narrative that they can do whatever they want.
This is like, I know who Ryan is in theory. I don't actually know him. I don't think I ever talked to him, if he's the guy I'm thinking of. So I guess I'm not, whatever. I am so sick of MAGA people talking to the media and making us all look stupid. Every single time MAGA people talk to the media about the far left, all of us look fucking stupid. Because it is inevitably, you know what it is? It's exactly the same thing as when right-wingers go to leftist protests and they find one person in the crowd who doesn't know why they're protesting, and then they film that person and they go, "Why are you protesting?" And the person goes, and then they go, "Aha!" And then they take that video and they put it out on Twitter and they say, "Look, none of these lefties even know why they're protesting." When in fact, if they asked 20 people if they knew why they were protesting, probably like 15 of them would be able to say, "We're protesting because of reason X, Y, B, and Z. There's a list of demands on the fucking website. Here's what we want." Like, the vast majority of them know why they're there and they know why they're protesting. But of course, the MAGA retards, because they're creating content to go viral on the internet and own the libs, they find like one or two people that are just there because a friend brought them or something. And when they're asked, "Why are you protesting?" they go, and then that gets put out on Twitter. And then the MAGA people say, "The last left doesn't even know why they're protesting. They never know why they're protesting. They don't even know what they want. These are all paid protesters and blah, 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 blah. It's exactly the same fucking thing with the right-wingers. Except that in our case, most of the right-wingers who go to stuff like this are literally just retards that are trying to create content for the internet, and they don't know what they're talking about, and they don't bother to understand what they're doing. And so in this case, when an NPR producer comes in and tries to ask about what they're doing, the right-winger almost every single time will make us all look stupid. And then the left does exactly the same thing to the right that the right does to the left, where the left takes the MAGA retards who are saying, I'm just trying to provoke them because they don't like me, and blah, blah, blah. It's like, oh my God. And then they use that, and then that gets put on all of us. And this is why the producer at NPR was quite frankly probably shocked that I actually had a nuanced definition of Antifa and I could actually speak intelligently about these issues, which of course she didn't use in the episode. Because I'm smarter than all the fucking people out there with few exceptions. There are also other people who are smart and great and know what they're talking about. I don't want to make it seem like I'm the only smart person out there. I'm being slightly hyperbolic. But it is always and perpetually the idiots that end up getting interviewed, and then they make us all look stupid.
This is precisely, exactly how many of the streamers and right-wing influencers feel. That even if Trump is in office, there's a double standard when it comes to the left and enforcement. The January 6th protesters were cracked down on, and these protesters are not.
For the record.
So yeah, they might.
For the record, I had to pay $2,000 to a lawyer to interview with the FBI simply because I was on the fucking lawn at January 6th. I don't give a flying fuck if there is a double standard in terms of law enforcement that is disproportionately impacting the left. Boo-hoo. You idiots have been doing illegal shit for years. Antifa had a literal fucking drug tent outside of the ICE facility. There is disproportional enforcement. I don't give a fuck.
Get in a protester's face and taunt them.
We are not being fascist
If
enough.
the protester responds with aggression, well, that's just revealing who they are. It's fair game. I want to pivot for a moment to say something about the cops. The cops are a great focus of the streamers' ire. They think the cops are in league with the protesters. They call them Cop-Tifa. Say they don't arrest the protesters enough.
Cop-Tifa,
the protesters would disagree.
That's true.
The night we were there, though, everyone agrees was a big turning point. It seemed the cops were cracking down. In fact, hours before Susan and I showed up here, 30 of them had descended on the protesters' tent and demanded its removal.
Yeah, it wasn't
the tent had been cleared before, but not like this. This time there was
the drug tent.
Less warning than usual, and there was just so many police. In general, people said there were a lot more police all of a sudden patrolling everything and issuing citations.
So what had happened the previous night? This important context. What had happened the previous night is the police basically left after 10 p.m. and people were literally fighting with each other in the middle of the street. Okay? And there were no cops, and the cops flat out said that they weren't coming back. And so basically it was like the Wild West out there from like 10 p.m. until I went to bed, probably around 2 or 3 in the morning. And do you guys remember that great fight that I filmed where we all got pepper ball sprayed by ICE? I filmed at one of the fights in the middle of the street where I got ICE like shooting pepper balls into it, and I got pepper balled, and that was a really good experience for me. And anyway, it was that night. So there was like all these fights going on in the street. ICE was pepper balling people. The cops weren't coming back. That was the night before this. So the next night, the cops came back and they ripped down that fucking tent, and then they were making everyone stay out of the street, and they were really kind of like enforcing it. So there was a big crackdown after the night where they just let it be the Wild West for a night.
And what made this happen, the streamers will tell you. A lot of it comes down to this one video, of course, from early October. A video from Ryan, actually, featuring the most known
Chad was being violent. He was totally.
He got into a scuffle with protesters. He was filming them. One of them started yelling at him and then pushed him with an umbrella.
I will fuck your ass up, punk. Get out of here.
Then a crowd formed and he got pushed into this hole. It's more like a huge dip in the ground covered in grass. It's called a bioswale. It's for rain runoff. Two of the protesters and Nick were arrested for disorderly conduct. Nick spent the night in jail. Donald Trump texted him, "We are behind you 100%. Basically, keep your head up," like he was Tupac. Nick ended up released and not charged with anything. Immediately afterward, the Department of Justice, the Civil Rights Division, opened an investigation into, quote, viewpoint discrimination by the Portland police. Nick himself has started the process to sue the police department for $10 million, alleging systemic bias against conservatives, saying the department was riddled with Antifa. 6 days after the arrest, Nick and the other influencers were at the White House doing that roundtable. Yes, anding the president's promise to send the National Guard into Portland.
You know what I will say? And I know I'm pausing a lot, but I'm just having so many, like, it's like it's all coming back to me. It's all flooding back. I haven't covered the Portland protests in a while because it's been so boring, but it's all flooding back. Zoe's not wrong about the Nick Sorter stuff, okay? Like, Zoe is not actually wrong about this. And this is why it's like so frustrating to me to deal with conservative retardation like all the time, because she's not wrong that the image that is being portrayed as Antifa by conservative influencers, by the Trump administration, is not accurate at all. And when you hear it presented in this context where Nick Sorter's like, the cops are full of Antifa. What? I'm sorry, Nick Sorter really should have taken me up on the offer I made him directly in person to make sure he understands this stuff. Because to say that the cops are filled with Antifa is one of the most boneheaded, stupid fucking things that I've ever heard in my life. Let's see if my chat is smarter than Nick Sorter on this question. Like, please, like, pop quiz for the chat. Why is it downright stupid to say the Portland cops are full of Antifa? That's dumb. That is not grounded into reality at all. Chelly says she's not wrong about a lot of what she is saying. Agreed. Yeah, so I have no problem with her presenting that. The bigger problem I have is with her completely leaving out the context that this was after months and months and months of the actual, like, leftists causing problems, being violent, all that stuff. Of course, we're not talking about that. Antifa hates the cops. There is no universe in which Antifa would become cops. All cops are bastards. ACAB says it means all cops are bastards. Antifa hates the cops. And so again, Nick Sorter is a position of influence. Nick Sorter is a 27-year-old with, for reasons past my understanding, very high-level connections within the Trump administration, going out there saying, we're going to get those Antifa on the Portland PD. It makes us all look stupid. And it's like, this is why I get so frustrated with the right, because I'm like, you make these stupid errors that are just unnecessary. It is unnecessary to be wrongly characterizing this situation. It is unnecessary to lie about what Antifa is. It is unnecessary to make these crazy proclamations about, like, what you believe the left is doing that are completely unhinged from reality. All of the information is out there. And by the way, Nick Sorter can DM me anytime he wants to get the information. I will give it to him, and I will give it to him in private, where no one needs to know where he's getting it from. And he knows this is true, and he knows I made this offer, and he hasn't taken me up on it, and he should have, because saying the cops are filled with Antifa is stupid. Honey Badger Mom, Chelly says, none of them listened to me when I said the cops weren't Antifa or working with Antifa. None of them. I totally believe that. I totally believe that. And again, I'm not saying the cops aren't on the left. The cops are absolutely on the left. Like, the cops are like liberals or progressives. Maybe not all of them, but a lot of them. And I'm not suggesting they are not biased towards one side or the other. I think they absolutely are. But to say that the cops are fucking Antifa is stupid. Thanks, Kristen. Hey, I really appreciate that. Thank you so much for the super chat. Yeah, and of course, and by the way, guys, and I'm going to say this because Chelly won't, but I'll say it. This is my perspective. This is only my perspective. Anyone else can co-sign this if they want, I guess. I think the reason that the real journalists like Chelly that have been driven away from covering the Portland protests, because you guys know, Chelly doesn't cover the Portland protests any longer. She basically retired from covering ICE. And I don't fucking blame her. Because when she tried to go and talk sense to these fucking MAGA retards and the streamers that are out there every day, they got mad at her. They said she was Chelly is also secret Antifa, according to the MAGA retards, guys. You know this, right? I'm secret Antifa. Chelly's secret Antifa. Everyone that now she's actually gotten physically attacked by Antifa, but no, she's secret Antifa, according to the MAGA retards who just showed up yesterday. And this is why good people get driven away from covering stuff like this, because the MAGA retards make it goddamn near impossible.
To police this block, because the police were not. And that got a ton of coverage on right-wing media. And that's why the streamers think the cops are acting differently tonight. Some of them, including Mike,
that's not why. The cops were actually
acting
differently that night.
Of all this exposure.
That's
all
not
the
why, though.
streamers coming down here, just the pressure that's been built from it, and Fox News talking about them, they have to enforce the law, and it has to be equally. So it's definitely changed things.
But why take Mike's word for it? Guess who showed up for Patriots weekend? It's Nick Sorter himself. He's right here.
I think that.
Nick, do you think that?
By the way, I think that Patriots weekend thing was literally just a coincidence. I don't think they all coordinated to come together for Patriots weekend. I think it was one of those things where like the coverage was just building up and people were getting excited about it online. And there were these groups driving down from Idaho just to hang out with Tommy. And I think that Nick Sorter was spending a lot of time there because he was getting a lot of attention for it and he was getting invited to the White House. But like, I don't think the Patriot weekend thing was like an official event. I think it was just one of those things that like, people were there, and so they gave it a name because they were being creative. That's it.
Like stuff like what happened to you changed what the police were doing?
Yeah, it was not a big plan. I thought so.
Brought it brought nationwide attention to the issue. Obviously, that my intent was to bring nationwide attention to the issue, but not in that manner.
Not in the manner of getting arrested.
Not in the manner of being arrested. But I was on Laura Ingram's show, I guess, 3 hours before I was arrested. The fact that I had just done that hit and it was fresh, and then I was arrested on that Thursday night, and then that whole Friday was just nonstop coverage of the arrest. Ever since then, I mean, they've pretty much been talking about it in at least one segment of each show every night. So, I mean, I've done probably 6 or 7 primetime Fox hits since then.
Standing here on this block full of streamers, I just want to point out this is the dream. Saturation coverage with footage these guys filmed stamped with their handles.
That's not my fucking dream. Just for the record, I only speak for myself, obviously. That is not my fucking dream, is to have the news dictated by streamers on the fucking internet. I actually think that's a nightmare, especially when it comes to conservative streamers who are only provoking bullshit and nonsense. My dream is people hinge into reality. Chelly's dream is someone who stood out there filming the ICE facility for months when it wasn't getting this type of coverage, just actually wants to document what's going on. Some of us actually have like, yeah, you're not even really a live streamer. You were just standing there holding a camera because like people liked it or whatever. But like you're a journalist, like you're a real journalist.
Anyway, after all the attention Nick got for his arrest, including the Department of Justice investigation into the Portland police.
Me too.
It seemed to the streamers that the cops were policing the protesters more strictly, like clearing the tent and everything. So we asked the police, were the streamers right? Were they policing differently after Nick Sorter?
Well,
and they responded they were doing more enforcement, but for a different reason. Quote, if there was any change, it was in the crowd's behavior. We began to see an influx of streamers, the people who want to monetize this situation. Still quoting the police here. They went on. The increase in the number of live streamers and personalities in the area contributed to an environment where tension and confrontation escalated. Many of these individuals were creating content for audiences that reward intensity and conflict,
Yeah, I
which
don't
can
disagree,
sometimes
actually.
amplify volatile situations.
Now, what did I say? The police are on the left, but they're not like the police are not fucking Antifa. The police are not far leftists. The police are like the good liberals of Portland or whatever. And so, of course, the police are going to say, it's these evil MAGA fascists that are creating all the problems. Now, and I say that as someone who I actually do believe that the MAGA retards create a ton of problems. But it's also like, are the police saying that for the same reason that I'm saying that? Probably not. Chelly says, you can't necessarily believe what the police say publicly. We don't know why they changed the rules of law enforcement. See, I don't think it was because of the coverage in the media. I think they did get a ton of shit for just leaving the night before this. That's kind of like, because I know Cam Higbee made a big deal about it, and this did get a lot of coverage of like the police basically just abandoning the area. And so I thought that it was mostly in response to that, but I certainly could be wrong. More likely the mayor or governor said, clean this up. Probably. What? Yeah, okay. Yeah, guys, I impersonated Poetry Psycho. I impersonated Poetry Psycho from earlier. Okay, well, she can put a fucking sock into it. Ocean Plot, for what it's worth, I asked the police multiple times on the ground, and they never said anything like this statement to NPR. So NPR got their own little official statement that was different than what the police were telling the actual journalists on the ground. Isn't that interesting?
In other words, the live streamers made the protesters act up, and the police cracked down on both of them. That is definitely not how the streamers interpreted things. On this night, certainly, they just thought they were winning.
They did think they were winning. That's true. They did. Yep.
It's after midnight now. The streamers seem to be on a high. They've seen the cops clear the protesters' tent. The cops seem to be listening to them.
That was fun.
They're filled with this we're winning adrenaline. They want to do something. So they start this march
Here we
down
go.
the street.
Here
towards
we
this
go.
apartment.
Here we
Something
go.
like 30-odd people marching with their phones aloft, yelling someone's name. Chandler.
Here we go.
They open the door to this guy's apartment. It just opens, which is shocking to see and feels a little scary. Like, is someone going to get dragged out and beat up in some soccer hooligan-y way?
Fucking retards. Fucking retards. God damn.
I find myself next to Chad Caton, the guy in a bulletproof vest who was yelling
fuck
about
that
stolen
guy.
valor
Chad
before.
sucks.
We're just a few feet back from the apartment door. He's streaming as we're talking, which is always how it is. What's going on here?
So Chandler has been operating the Antifa out of here. They've been running this neighborhood, and these patriots have had enough. They're taking back their streets, and this has been
Oh my
Chandler's-
God.
This is where they have
They're taking back their streets. Chandler was in his apartment sleeping. They're taking back the street. This was one of the dumbest things these people ever did.
attacked patriots and ran in here. This is a safe house, and this is where Antifa hangs out here in Rose City.
A lot of this stuff turns out not to be
No.
actual fact, but more like-
That's not right. That's not where Antifa hangs out in Rose City. That's where Chandler and his friends hang out, in Chandler's fucking apartment, which happens to be a couple blocks away from the ICE facility. Again, like the MAGA, like the fact that I have to stop and correct the MAGA retards because they just make shit up. And by the way, and I want to make sure I'm very clear about this, Chandler and his friends are not even really Antifa. Chandler is not Antifa. I hope people know this. Chandler is a leftist. Chandler is for sure, he doesn't want to be called a socialist or a communist, but he is. But this is not Rose City Antifa from 2016. This is not, they're not even remotely as violent as some leftists that we cover. Not even remotely. So, man, your whole job is to create sympathy for Antifa. Guys, we have a retard in the chat. No, bro. My job is to tell the truth. My job is to accurately relay information regardless of how you politically feel about it. That is actually my job.
Like Chad's interpretation of things, which others would strongly disagree.
If you think that Chandler is Antifa, you have no fucking clue what Antifa even means, and you should stop listening to conservative media because that's just retarded. There is no universe in which Chandler is Antifa.
With, but he is speaking the way most streamers and influencers would about Chandler's apartment. That is Antifa headquarters. Another streamer, Nick Shirley, runs up to Chad.
So, man, what's going on?
Thank you.
Chad catches him and his viewers up with the not exactly true things that he told me.
They're just letting Chandler know that the bullying's done and that they're taking back the streets. This is Rose City headquarters. It's a storefront because he's a trust fund baby, and this is where they have their furry parties and all that.
It's a storefront because he's a trust fund baby, and that's where they have their furry parties. Chad Canton is one of the dumbest fucking people on the internet.
Billy.
I'll just clarify, this is not a storefront. It's not the headquarters of Rose City Antifa.
It's not a storefront. It's
Chandler
not.
isn't a trust fund baby, and there don't seem to be any furry parties here, actually.
The reason that Chandler is a communist is Chandler's family, like, basically went broke. Chandler is not a trust fund baby. Chandler did let a lot of people go into his apartment who assaulted people. That's true. I understand that. And we're trying to get away from the cops. No furry parties, and Chandler is not a trust fund baby at all. Chandler doesn't have money. Again, like, people might not like us saying this, but, like, we hinge into reality here. Like, we don't just make shit up like the MAGA retards.
But anyway.
So this is the spot where Antifa, they're home base down here, basically.
Yeah, this is where they hide. This is the safe house, known as a safe house.
Are you a fascist?
At this point, Nick takes over from Chad, narrating for his live stream. He knows Chandler. A lot of the people watching his stream know Chandler. Any regulars who tune into the Portland scene down here know who he is.
He's honestly seems like a very normal person when you talk to him, have conversations. But he has been the most well-known person for being the head of Antifa here in this part of Portland.
Oh
Oregon.
my
So what
God.
are people doing outside?
The MAGA retards called Chandler the leader of Antifa. This is why there is an IQ test to be in my audience. This is why. The idea that Chandler is the leader of Antifa, if you truly believe that Chandler is the leader of Antifa in Portland, you are not smart enough to be on my channel. I'm very sorry. Like, you need to go back to the MAGA retards because you can't stay here. You're not gonna like we're all gonna be happier. I promise you. Yeah, I would agree with that. And listen, I actually do like Nick Shirley. I think Nick Shirley is doing a good job, man. But Nick Shirley is a young kid who is just out there live streaming content. Nick Shirley goes into situations I wouldn't want anything to do with, and I respect the things he's documenting. I'm not trying to shit talk Nick Shirley because I do actually like the stuff that Nick Shirley puts out. But Nick Shirley is not an Antifa expert. He's covered it a couple of times.
his house right now.
Yeah, well, Antifa's kind of been defeated today as they took down his encampment. So I think he'll want to see what Chandler had to say and see if he was going to do anything about it.
Chandler pokes his head out the door. He looks like a sleepy, tousled blonde college kid who just rolled out of bed. He seems completely unfazed by the mass of shouting people and phones just outside his house. A few of his friends, the protester in the fuzzy skeleton suit, another in a keffiyeh and goggles, a couple in all black, are hovering around him. Chandler stands in the middle of the open door and starts addressing the group of chanting, angry, excited, victorious people.
It is entirely to the advantage of the powerful to have us, the working class, blame the powerless. Does that make sense?
It is also very...
Chandler played this whole thing so well, by the way, and I knew it as I was standing there watching it. Chandler won the optics battle of this round. Tommy and the MAGA retards lost the optics battle. Chandler won the optics battle, and it wasn't even close. Chandler handled it in about the best way I think anyone could handle. Having a mob of people show up outside your door, and he just, like, he held court. He was calm throughout it. He just stated his position on things. He used the opportunity to say what he wanted to say. He answered questions. Like, he may not have liked it. I'm sure he didn't like it at all. But Chandler won the optics battle by remaining calm and not engaging in the bullshit.
Very surprising to me to hear this Orson Welles type voice come out of this young person's mouth.
It is entirely to the advantage of the ruling class to convince you to blame the powerless, to blame the immigrants, to blame the left, to blame the right, to blame the rural farmers, to blame the liberals in the city, to blame the conservatives, right?
He's ringed by streamers and phones, some of whom are just filming without comment, but a lot of whom are yelling at each other and teasing him. Because of the way Chandler talks, the whole thing feels just of another era, as though he's on a literal soapbox and people in bowler hats are on a cobblestone street booing and throwing tomatoes at him.
That's actually a really good analogy. I agree with that.
Bobbing everywhere and people narrating and arguing while he's talking.
So when your SNAP benefits run out soon, when you go hungry, remember, it is the powerful. It is not the poor. It is the Democrats. It is the Republicans. It is the ruling class. It is the rich.
It is the Democrats and the Republicans, according to Chandler, because Chandler is not a Democrat or a liberal. He doesn't vote for the Democrats. He doesn't support the Democrats. He is a leftist. He's not the leader of Antifa, though. That's stupid.
What our economy does that make sense? They own our industry. They own our fucking
he's
house.
like in an old movie.
They own the hours of your fucking life.
Thank you, Chandler.
There is no left and right. There is only rich and poor. There is only powerful and powerless. You are among the powerless. We are among the powerless. Does that make sense? USA! USA!
People are starting to get restless, like unsure what to do next since this Chandler catharsis seems to be getting
hang on. No. That's a fake award. That is everything. You guys understand, right? Every single thing that James O'Keefe does is fake. It's all to feed James. James O'Keefe is a massive fucking narcissist. Every single thing that James O'Keefe does, and if you watch how he behaves, you will see this. And I say this having spoken with literally dozens of people who worked for James O'Keefe at Project Veritas, many of whom I consider to be friends to this day. James O'Keefe is a massive narcissist that built an organization to glorify James O'Keefe. Most of the shit that he does is fake. And listen. He is loved by conservatives because he feeds everything the conservatives want. And so he created a fake award. And like, good on Nick Shirley for getting it, I guess. But I don't consider the James O'Keefe Narcissism Award to be a reputable award of journalism. I'm sorry. It's an award of like streaming stuff that conservatives like for clickbait. That's all it is. And again, I say that appreciating what Nick Shirley does on some level.
Chandler still harboring terrorists after trying to gobble our knobs all night last night.
Eventually, people do start wandering away from Chandler's house. Karlyn is giddy. Is it fun though?
Yeah, it's a ton of fun. Aren't you having fun? Wasn't that fun?
Fun is not the word, but like, I'm looking for something to happen and it was happening.
Yeah, it's an adrenaline rush. It's like this doesn't happen every day, right?
It does seem like you guys are like making
Actually, it does happen every
day.
day, yeah.
It seems like people are making it happen every day.
Oh yeah.
I give my business card to the guy.
Well, okay, so overall, Reagan said she didn't like the framing. I don't mind the framing. That was incredibly fucking fun. That was incredibly fucking fun. Like, are you not entertained? It was incredibly fucking fun. But like the thing I take issue with, and I'm not even sure I heard the producers say it when it actually happened. But like, you guys are making this happen. She said this to me. I'm like, I didn't make shit happen. I was not involved in the bringing of the mob from Tommy's corner to Chandler's apartment. All I literally did was follow and record them. I didn't have anything to do with that shit. And so, and this is why I said to the NPR fact checker when I talked to him the other day, I was like, I want to make it real clear. I'm not a part of that group. But of course, you guys do that. Bitch, I don't do shit. I show up and I document what's going on. But that part was actually funny. I do appreciate that. I want to listen to that again.
I'm looking for.
Aren't you having
all night last night?
Eventually, people do start wandering away from Chandler's house. Karlyn is giddy. Is it fun though?
Yeah, it's a ton of fun. Aren't you having fun? Wasn't that fun?
Fun is
Simona
not
was
the
there
word,
too.
but like, I'm looking for something to happen and it was happening.
Yeah, it's an adrenaline rush. It's like this doesn't happen every day, right?
Yeah. It does seem like you guys are like making
Actually,
it
it does
happen
happen every day, yeah.
It seems like people are making it happen.
You guys, as if everyone out there is a monolith. Again, I didn't bring the mob to Chandler's apartment. All I did was follow them and record it. I'm not a part of any of that.
Every day.
Oh yeah.
I give my business card to the guy who's famous for dressing as a frog at these protests. He was acting as a bouncer. Can you just give this to him? The scene at Chandler's ends with a bunch of streamers taking group photos of themselves simultaneously with their phones.
I was not in the photo.
Boys and girls,
for
you're
a
all
reason.
good kids.
Oh my God. It's like 30 people. Then some of them bring their phones close and bid fond farewells to their viewers online.
I'll see you guys tomorrow. I love you guys. We won tonight, baby. We
How
won.
could you not have fun being in that environment? Come on.
We're doing it right now.
This is like lack of
So I'm gonna
imagination.
help. I love you guys. I'll make a post when I get home.
All the world's
So
a stage
NPR.
and all the men and women merely players. You can't help feeling like this is so performative and absurd that even the
Yup.
menacing moments are just part of a drama they invented to keep whoever's watching on social media entertained.
True.
It's cartoonish, it's over the top, and this search for red Antifa on this block can mean a random ICE protester in a frog costume. It could mean that.
Again, I want it to be noted for the record. I gave Zoe a very detailed definition of what Antifa is, and I'm pretty sure I said something about Chandler not being the leader of Antifa. So, not every single person out there didn't know what the fuck they were talking about and was like blaming Chandler for all of it, because that's just not that's not accurate.
A person who hit a right-wing influencer with a flagpole and then ran away.
Yeah.
But here's what else the word Antifa now means in America, partly because of the story the streamers are telling about Portland. There's a great smooshing that's happening now. Protest means Antifa. Antifa means violence. And Antifa is rampant.
That fucking bitch was trying to get me with a gotcha question. That fucking bitch, Zoe, literally kissed my fat ass. That fucking bitch was trying to get me with a gotcha question. When she asked me to define what Antifa was, she was perfectly happy. She would have been perfectly happy if I had given her, if I hadn't known the fucking definition in the way that I do. She would have clipped that shit out of context to make me look stupid. And Zoe, you know that's true, you fucking leftist elitist bitch.
organized, networked, well-funded, and belongs in the sizzle.
She was waiting. She could have actually. What is the definition of Antifa? How are they defining Antifa? She literally has me on tape saying this. Antifa is a highly decentralized, non-hierarchical organization with thousands of cells nationwide that you can define based on their behavior, such as participation in black bloc and surveillance culture and yada, 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 yada. She has me on tape saying this. Of course, it doesn't make it into the broadcast at all because then I might actually seem like an expert, like when I know what I'm talking about. It would also disrupt her bullshit narrative that none of the right-wingers there know what they're talking about and that they just think that everyone on the left is Antifa, which is true for normal MAGA retards, but certainly not for me.
Random ICE protester in a frog costume. It could mean that person who hit a right-wing. And the search for red Antifa on this block can mean a random ICE protester in a frog costume. It could mean that person who hit a right-wing influencer with a flagpole and then ran away. But here's what else the word Antifa now means in America, partly because of the story the streamers are telling about Portland.
Yeah.
There's a great smooshing that's happening now. Protest means Antifa. Antifa means violence. And Antifa is rampant, organized, networked, well-funded, and belongs in the sizzle reel with the much more famous
Antifa is not
foreign terrorist
well-funded.
group.
And I quite frankly think she asked me about this too. Antifa is not well-funded. Antifa is funded by mutual aid.
That Americans all know. Remember, DHS head Kristi Noem at the White House roundtable with the streamers.
This network of Antifa is just as sophisticated as MS-13, as TDA, as ISIS, as Hezbollah, as Hamas, as all of them.
Yeah, it's Soros. Trust me, bro.
Let's go inside the Antifa safe house, see for ourselves, and talk to the head of Antifa, so-called. After the break, the frog guy gets us in.
Shelly, can we just like really just reflect on the fact that when the White House roundtable happened, and by the way, which Honey Badger mom was left out of, and she damn well should have been invited to, along with other people who were left out of it because they don't work for the Post-Millennial or Turning Point USA. But can we just reflect on the fact that we started making fun of Kristi Noem, or was it Marco Rubio? I don't remember. Of whoever called Chandler the leader of Antifa at the White House roundtable. We started making fun of them literally the minute that happened. Be like, yeah, Chandler's the leader of Antifa. Great job, guys. Great work, White House. Great work, FBI. Do you know how I know the FBI doesn't know what the fuck they're talking about? Because Kash Patel was sitting at that table where they said Chandler is the leader of Antifa. And then we started tweeting on the, Shelly and I almost right away started tweeting, Chandler is not the leader of Antifa, you retards. Yeah, the FBI is getting their intel from Veli. Exactly. And now we have come full circle where fucking NPR is making fun of conservative retards by saying, I'm going to interview Chandler, the leader of Antifa. It was Kristi Noem. I think you're right. Yep. Kristi Noem. Kristi Noem is to blame for all of this. Like Kristi Noem, who only has a job because she looks like a Barbie doll and apparently shot her dog or something like that. Like, oh, the left is evil, but the right is stupid.
Zoe Chase. Coming up, Chandler's apartment. Could you be any more excited? That's in a minute. Chicago Public Radio.
I'm very excited about Chandler's apartment. Yeah, very excited about Chandler's apartment.
Support for This American Life and the following message come from AT&T. AT&T believes hearing a voice, especially a familiar, incorporating therapy down by the FBI, the Justice Department, Treasury, the IRS, DHS. We've arrived at Act 2 of our program, Act 2, inside the safe house. Okay, so where we left off, our producers, Zoe Chase and Suzanne Gaber, are trying to actually meet the so-called leader of Antifa.
The fucking leader leader
We pick up our story a couple nights later.
It will never not be funny that the world all thinks that Chandler is the leader of fucking Antifa.
Else. Okay, so where we left off, the Justice Department, Treasury, the IRS, DHS. We've arrived at Act 2 of our program.
Well, I told Shelly that she should write a book because she's interviewed Chandler multiple times. I told Shelly she should write a book called The Legend of Chandler. Just because I think it's actually a great name for a book, and I still think that Shelly should write that. The Legend of Chandler, the leader of Antifa. And it could be a total like satire on the whole thing.
Act 2, inside the safe house.
Shelly
Okay,
could write a whole book about her experience covering the ICE facilities, but frame it in terms of like Chandler, just to be funny about it. I think it's a good idea.
So where we left off, our producers Zoe Chase and Suzanne Gaber were trying to actually meet the so-called leader of Antifa. We pick up our story a couple nights later
Leader of
outside his
Antifa.
door.
We've arrived.
Oh, we're here. The Antifa safe house. We're welcomed in, and the first thing we see is this sign that's posted right in front of the door. 3 cameras and the Second Amendment.
That's a lie.
Wait, so what does it mean?
It's supposed to imply that there are 3 cameras and also that I have a gun, but I have neither of those things. There are no cameras in here, and I don't have a gun.
So why did you put it up?
To dissuade people from walking in and, doing weird, dumb stuff.
Just a prop, no real guns, like so much else around here. So Chandler's apartment, it both looks like a safe house for a socialist and a dude living alone in his 20s. 2 chairs, 1 desk, kitchenette. He offered us tea and measuring cups. 2 bookshelves, science fiction, Dune, Hitchhiker's Guide, Fahrenheit 451, Orwell, Vonnegut, but also the complete works of Rosa Luxemburg,
Yeah,
The
Chandler's
Rise and Fall of
obsessed with Rosa
Swedish Social
Luxemburg.
Democracy, psychology books. Chandler said he'd been planning to do cognitive behavioral science before he dropped out of college.
My name is Chandler Patey. I'm a carpenter, and I guess I have an apartment that is right next to ICE, and I'm an activist and protester, and I can't call myself an organizer for this protest, but I do usually organize outside of this event because there's no organization on this one.
Okay, so are you the leader of Antifa?
Unfortunately not, or rather fortunately not, because first of all, obviously, that doesn't make any sense. Antifa is not an organization. There are organizations that identify themselves as anti-fascist, right? But there are organizations that identify themselves as social.
If only Zoe had some very, very smart person on tape saying Antifa is a decentralized, non-hierarchical organization. If only she had that audio. If only that existed.
Socialist or conservative, and they aren't the entirety of that thing. So it just doesn't make any sense to say that you are the leader of conservatism or that you are the leader of socialism, right? Because it's an ideology. You can't be the leader of an ideology. That doesn't make sense.
I think it's important to be as clear as I can about this question, what is Antifa? There are organizations with the word Antifa in their name. Steel City Anti-Fascist League, Atlanta Anti-Fascists. One is famously from Portland, Rose City Antifa. It has a website, it has a flag. But the idea that all these different Antifa groups or anarchist groups are connected with a funding stream and a leadership, there's no public evidence that's true.
Yeah, that is actually correct. Zoe is correct about that. They are not connected with funding and they are not connected with leadership because Antifa is a highly decentralized, non-hierarchical organization.
That was the conclusion of the FBI during the first Trump administration. Trump's former FBI director famously said there are violent anarchist extremists who identify as Antifa in this country. But he said it was an ideology not an organization that the FBI could target. Self-radicalized lone actors, he called them. The current Trump administration, the second one, has obviously gone in a very different direction. So in this environment, you probably wouldn't want to be publicly identified as Antifa or the leader of Antifa right now. So why are people calling you the leader of Antifa?
Because there's this idiot named Veli Ray who's a streamer. He's very dumb, and I've tried really hard to be nice to him for a long time, but he's just so malicious and stupid. So he just makes stuff up to be sensational, and he'll just try and over dramatize the things that happen, and sometimes that would include vilifying us.
I asked Veli about this, and he said he's been filming Chandler for 6.5 months, and he stands by his claim about him 100%.
Oh, no.
I'd say Veli Ray is like Chandler's Moriarty, his Lex Luthor, his Joker. Except Chandler has so many nemesis, it's sort of hard to pick. Anyway, here's Veli Ray's stream from...
No, Veli is absolutely Chandler's number one nemesis, 100%.
A few weeks ago.
I'm following Chandler. Chandler, I love you. Chandler, don't go. Chandler.
Someone in Veli Ray's chat posted, "You're like Brando in Streetcar Named Desire right now."
Chandler, you just walked in a full circle.
Because I was trying to walk away from you.
You just walked in a full circle.
Initially, when Veli Ray came around, Chandler would do the thing that he does. He talked to him, speechifying about political corruption and capitalism, unbidden. And Chandler says at some point, Veli just started calling him the leader of Antifa.
He started it, and then other people.
They really did get their intel from Veli. What are you fucking No, Veli never unblocked me. And I didn't even do anything to get blocked in the first place. Are you telling me that that Kristi Noem actually did get her intel from Veli? You know what? People sometimes ask me, they say, Karlyn, do you really think you know more about the far left than do you really think you know more about the far left than the FBI does? And I say, yes, I do. And they say, well, do you really think that you? And they're like, they get all pissed off about it. And then I come to this revelation that the federal government is getting their intelligence on Antifa and who is the so-called leader of Antifa from fucking Veli. And this is why I say I know more about the far left than the FBI, because I don't use Veli Ray as a source. Veli, federal informant, confirmed.
People started repeating it because it got them clicks.
And yeah, by the way, Veli blocked me because when I was interviewing Chandler on my channel, Veli was causing problems in the chat, as he's prone to do, and one of my mods put Veli in a timeout. Now, I had nothing to do with that. I didn't even know Veli got timed out until after the interview, but Veli still blocked me. And then he tried to be a dick about it when I was streaming his content. And by the way, I'll stream your content if I fucking want, Veli, and there's nothing you can do to stop it. So Veli is out of line, and Veli should have unblocked me a long time ago because I didn't even do anything. He got accidentally timed out for 5 fucking minutes by mistake because it was a new mod who didn't know. And we don't want to give him crap either because he does a really good job. He just didn't know who Veli was. And then Veli had a fucking conniption and blocked me for no good reason. Yeah, I'm afraid of our future too. Yeah, me too.
Right. And then as that kept happening, and then they found out that I live right here in the so-called Antifa safe house, and then you came up with all sorts of
weird,
but
you didn't do it on purpose. It was an accident. And he shouldn't freak out. It was
got more clicks if you just say leader of Antifa in them. So it didn't matter that it was me. They just wanted that word.
You were a main character. They needed you were a main character in the story of the protest.
That's true. It is easier to give a face to something to get more clicks, right? Yeah.
This is going to sound facetious, but it's not. Was there anything actually flattering about that?
A little bit. It was like a joke that my friends and I, like, we all thought it was hilarious at first, and then we realized that, oh, that's actually not funny anymore. And so now I actually like get mad at my friends or other protesters in general if they like even joke about it anymore, because it's like, stop saying that. That's like really, really annoying. It makes me look super conceited if like that joke continues, right?
The other reason to get mad at this joke, of course, is that it seems it'd be dangerous to be called the leader of Antifa by people who have a direct line to the White House and the director of the
indeed.
FBI.
Well, I'm surprised the FBI hasn't been here already. Or have they?
I mean, they're at ICE sometimes, or there are people who claim to be FBI at ICE sometimes, and I've like been detained while the FBI was there, and then they talked to me and asked me like, so how are you organized, and like, who's your leader? Is someone paying you? Which is all hilarious shit for the FBI to be asking. Like,
Oh my God. The FBI really doesn't fucking know what they're doing. The FBI is asking Chandler who is their leader and how. Oh. Okay.
are you? And
Or have they?
I mean, they're at ICE sometimes, or there are people who claim to be FBI at ICE sometimes, and I've like been detained while the FBI was there, and then they talked to me and asked me like, so how are you organized, and like, who's your leader? Is someone paying you? Which is all hilarious shit
Is someone
for the
paying
FBI
you?
to be asking. Like, are you that? Are you incompetent? Are you stupid? Are you pretending to be stupid, or do you think that I'm stupid? Like, which is it?
Like they're trying to get you to admit to being the leader of Antifa?
Not me. They asked for a while. They would ask everybody basically those same questions, right? It was just really funny because it's like, obviously, we're not being paid. What are you talking about?
No.
Can't you just
no,
like look at all of our?
They don't. They don't. Chandler, they don't. The FBI does not know that you're not being paid. The conservatives do not know that you're not being paid because they believe that all of this is funded by George Soros, when in fact this is funded by mutual aid.
Private information. They asked for a while. They would ask everybody basically those same questions, right? It was just really funny because it's like, obviously, we're not being paid. What are you talking about? It's like, can't you just like look at all of our private information? And then 2 alleged FBI agents gave me a brief interview where I didn't really answer any of their questions and just asked them how they feel about capitalism and corporate oligarchy and things, and just like disregarded everything they said. It was pretty funny.
You're playing into what they think is Antifa, when you go in there to an ICE facility and you're talking to DHS and you're talking about how we need to get rid of rich people.
I say get rid of is not accurate though, right? Because I'm a democratic socialist. I like democracy, right? What we need isn't to just like go to the rich people with a small group of violent Antifa rebels and then like kill them. That's dumb. That won't result in lasting change. What we need is to convince everyone, right? To like
This next piece of economic analysis from Chandler is going to play differently to you once I tell you what his father did for a living. So just listen a little closer than you maybe were going to, okay?
rich people hate us. They will do everything that they can to consolidate power, right? They will destroy the United States economy and therefore the global economy so that they can drive everybody out of business and then buy up fucking all of the shit that people need to sell for the lowest possible price and just keep consolidating power over and over and over.
Now, Chandler was a kid during the financial crisis of 2008, and he saw a very particular side of it in his own house.
So my family started off being kind of wealthy up until, so my dad worked at AIG Merrill Lynch.
Thank you.
That
Appreciate it.
is the sound of someone thinking, oh, your dad was in the business of mortgage-backed securities that crashed the economy 17 years ago when you were at a young and impressionable adolescent age. And now you're a committed socialist. Oh.
So, and then was like a higher up, like a marketing director or some shit like that.
Of the FBI, exactly.
And so we had like a pretty big house that like they built and like designed themselves because my grandpa is a structural engineer. My grandma is like a designer or like an interior designer or something. My mom also has a degree in interior design or something. And so they're pretty wealthy, not like super rich, but like pretty wealthy. But I don't know if you know, but in AIG, Merrill Lynch was one of the parties mainly responsible for the 2008 financial crisis. So when that happened, my dad lost everything and then went crazy and became a crippling alcoholic. And then I just like didn't really see him very much ever again, which was fine because I never really saw him very much to begin with. And he was kind of weird.
I'm sorry.
Oh, it's fine.
Just to say, Chandler denies his economic analysis comes from his personal experience. He says it comes from observations about history. Fair enough, nonetheless. Chandler does not like to talk about his family much. He says he doesn't really keep in touch with them. He grew up Mormon just outside Portland. His dad...
Chandler's a Mormon? I didn't know that. Thanks, Suzanne. At least Karlyn is a worthy opponent and knows of that of which she speaks. I'm embarrassed. You know what? Like, listening to Chandler talk about the questions that the FBI is asking them, I'm like, I am embarrassed for the FBI. I would be embarrassed to be a part of that. I am embarrassed for the Department of Justice. I am embarrassed for anyone working in the Trump administration because it's like, bro, like seriously? Thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it.
Died earlier this year. He has found a family of sorts here at the ICE facility. Sorry if that's corny to say. While we were there for a few hours, people stopped by and changed their clothes, used the bathroom. Someone gave him $10 for the water bill. A big wagon of medical supplies was sitting in the middle of the furnitureless living room.
Well, hey, hang on. Let's talk about Dan Bongino living for just half a second, because I absolutely do have thoughts on this. I think that Dan Bongino is leaving because working in government sucks, and it's a lot nicer to be a famous podcast host. That's why I think Dan Bongino is leaving. I think that Dan Bongino is probably not qualified to be in the position they put him in the first place. I know he worked for the Secret Service. That doesn't mean you're qualified to be the deputy director of the FBI. You go from being in the Secret Service to being like a podcaster. That does not give you, I'm sorry, like Dan Bongino even admitted that he said things during his podcast that weren't even real just for clicks and views and stuff like that. And then he gets put in charge, like second in command at the FBI. That was just a horrible idea from the beginning. Like that was never ever going to last. But where I might be swayed on this is if Dan Bongino comes out and spills the tea. If Dan Bongino, like, do you guys remember when Dan Bongino tweeted something to the effect of, "The things I have seen at the FBI have shaken me to my core." Well, Dan, now that you are leaving the FBI and returning to your podcast, can you please tell us what has shaken you to your core about the FBI? Because if he spills the tea, I will retract. If he actually talks about all the things that are wrong and all the reasons why he left, and the reason he left better not be, I miss my wife. You know what, bro? You're a rich fucking podcaster. Move your wife to an apartment in Washington, D.C. Like, why was he even away from his wife? Why didn't she move with him to Washington, D.C.? The whole thing was really weird from the start. So if he comes out and spills the tea about what's going on and why he was shaken to his core, then I will forget all of this. But I think he's going back to his podcast because I think that life is much easier as a famous podcaster than it is sitting in your office at the FBI, not knowing what the fuck to do or how to fix any problems or even having a handle on what the problem is. So if he doesn't spill the tea, I mean, so far as I'm concerned, his entire credibility has been completely shot.
People had dragged it here
Not
after
that I
the
liked him
camp
in the
was
first
taken
place,
down by
but
the cops. Some helped themselves to beef soup Chandler had on the stove. Not the vegan, of course, who called it flesh soup. Chandler found a partner, a romantic partner down here at the protest.
A non-binary.
His first significant romantic partner ever, he says. They came by for a second. In any case, Chandler has a sign up on his bedroom door that says, "Don't go in."
Did you notice that? Zoe respected the pronouns of Chandler's they, them. Because Chandler's they, them is not Chandler's girlfriend, even though she is a girl. But it's they. It's they. They are non-binary.
In my room, that's fucking weird. implying that enough people came by and tried to go in his room that he had to put a sign up. Also, Chandler is autistic. He calls himself very, very autistic.
Very autistic.
And something that he attributes to his autism is his ability to talk and talk and talk very calmly to whomever's talking to him, however they're talking to him. Even if, in my opinion, it very much makes him look like the leader of Antifa. Like our night with the streamers when he gave that press conference of sorts standing in his doorway.
Sometimes you can't worry about how things
you
look.
coming out
Zoe.
was this incredible catharsis. And they were talking to us like this was like spiking the football. It was a victory lap. Like the camp was down and now they were teasing, bullying, yelling at the head of Antifa at the Antifa safe house, wildly outnumbering him and making fun of him and his friends. And why would you give them that content?
The content that I'm giving them is good for me.
Hang on. Oh, how silly. You think the pronoun game is over? You think the left isn't doing the pronoun game anymore? You think that's over? Hey, pop quiz for the chat for people who watch far left content with me and understand this stuff. What is the left's primary goal when it comes to gender, and what do the pronouns have to do with it? What is the left's primary goal with gender that they are still absolutely working towards to this day in public schools, no less? What is the left's goal when it comes to gender, and what do pronouns have to do with it? The left's goal is to abolish gender entirely. It is to transcend gender, not transition. It's to transcend or to transform, because they want to abolish gender entirely, abolishing gender. They are trying to eliminate the binaries, so they're definitely using non-binary pronouns. Like, yeah, they use non-binary pronouns all the time. Anyone who thinks they don't use non-binary pronouns is not listening. They just literally used a non-binary pronoun on NPR. You think this is over? They integrated it so seamlessly into the episode that you could have missed it if you weren't paying attention. It's not to make gender meaningless. No, that's not what it is. It is the destruction of gender. It is the abolition of gender. It is not to make gender meaningless. They want to abolish gender altogether, abolishing all gender, making an entire world of they, thems. They teach your kids this in school. Are you in? Okay, we got a MAGA retard here. These kids with pronouns will grow up and they're Bro, are you capable of listening and responding to new information? Because you obviously don't know what the fuck you're talking about, and we're trying to teach you something. Are you smart enough to be on this channel, Patriot? I mean, usually people with Patriot in their screen name usually aren't smart enough to be on this channel, because you guys are typically QAnon retards. Are you listening to what we're trying to say? Because I don't have time for this MAGA retardation shit. There are real problems in the world. Your kids are being taught this in school. You have no fucking clue what's going on. And you have some sort of mistaken impression that none of this is happening anymore, probably because you only watch conservative media like an absolute retard. Let us know if you're smart enough to be here. Or we can just ban you, whatever.
Because no matter how many people I failed to convince, it is almost guaranteed that there is at least some people in their audience who responded positively to what I said.
How do you figure?
Yeah.
Because I have seen it. I go to their comment sections. I look at their comment sections. Especially on Veli Ray's videos, there were so many of his fucking viewers that actually were on my side.
So you really think that the commenters on the live streams are turning into democratic socialists, some of them?
No. That would be crazy. I would love that. But no, I can only convince them on one point at a time, right? And
Chandler isn't always so above it all. He admits he takes the bait sometimes and gets aggressive, physically aggressive, which of course gives the streamers exactly what they're looking for, which is footage of the violent Antifa.
Yep, true.
He pulled up a video of a fight he definitely participated in with that provocateur guy, Ryan, we talked about earlier, and someone else called Right Side Rebel.
Oh, the blonde whore!
And then I get pulled off of Right Side Rebel. Everybody pulls me off of Right Side Rebel, and then I restrain Right Side Rebel again, and then it fizzles out after that, right? And
But
like,
don't you think? I mean, this
Yeah.
is exactly what
Mhm.
people are out there to
Yeah.
stream.
Mhm.
This is what they
Oh,
want to
that's-
see.
Well, the blonde whore attacked his girlfriend, okay, and he pulled the blonde whore off his girlfriend, and then they were laughing like best friends an hour later.
there was six more, like, I don't know how many more fights that night, but yeah, afterwards I went and I apologized to Right Side Rebel, and you know, we like smoothed it over. I was holding you back. I apologize if it seemed like
Sorry for knocking your phone out
like
of your
actually
face.
I apologize.
It was the very
Are you fucking shitting me? Chandler apologized to the blonde that night. The blonde whore said, "It's okay, Chandler." Everyone thought they had smoothed things over. And then how many weeks did we have to suffer with Enrique Tarrio and the MAGA retards screaming about Chandler put her in a chokehold, Chandler put her in a chokehold, Chandler was trying to choke her, Chandler put her in a chokehold, me. And I think this is also a good question. And I just want it to be noted for the record. Chelly was down there way more. I was there for a couple days. Chelly was down there all the time. And we want to know how many right-wing streamers the blonde whore actually slept with. We demand to know. Because I'm sorry, like the fact that it was a complete and total distraction for fucking weeks. We had to hear Chandler put her in a chokehold, Chandler put her in a chokehold, Chandler put her in a chokehold, Chandler, like weeks and weeks away. How many of those MAGA retards were attacking me and distracting me from more important work than them for weeks and weeks and weeks? Chandler put her in a chokehold, Chandler put her in a chokehold, Chandler put her in, like I had to hear about this all day, every fucking day. Enrique Tarrio brought me on his show just to do a hit piece on me, which I kind of knew walking into it, so it's a little bit my fault. But just because of that, because here's why Enrique Tarrio did that. Because Enrique Tarrio is one of the people that the blonde whore was fucking, among many others as well. So Chandler apologized to her that night. They smoothed the whole thing over. The whole thing is recorded. And then for weeks and weeks and weeks, the MAGA retards just kept hammering it and hammering it and hammering it and hammering it and hammering it. Those assholes can literally all go fuck themselves.
I
went and I
what
Mhm.
people are out there to
Yeah.
stream.
Mhm.
This is what they
Oh,
want to
that's-
see.
There was six more, like I don't know how many more fights that night, but yeah, afterwards I went and I apologized to Right Side
She
Rebel,
brought it up
and,
2
you know,
fucking
we like
days ago.
smoothed it over.
I was holding you
back. I apologize if it seemed like
Sorry for knocking your phone out
like
of your
actually
face.
I apologize.
It was a very heated moment. You won, bitch. You guys just united the country. Oh my god.
I was just trying. So there was no reason.
And she's still bringing it up today. That fucking whore should be excommunicated from anything having to do with the conservative right. First of all, she's not a conservative. By the way, she's like a single mother that doesn't even have custody of her own kid. She's running around sleeping with every fucking MAGA influencer. She's causing problems, creating a massive fucking distraction when there doesn't need to be any problem. She just could have moved on. But if the blonde whore had moved on, there wouldn't have been 3 weeks worth of content to create after that was completely distracting to what was actually going on at the ICE facility. This is why the MAGA retards cannot be trusted in any situation. They need to be cordoned off and kept as far away from possible because they do this all the time. How distracted were all of these people talking about this blonde fucking whore who was fucking everyone when they could have been talking about what the left was doing? They could have been reporting on actual news. They could have been talking about the graffiti outside the facility. They could have been talking about that. They could have been doing almost anything that was more productive than simping for that fucking blonde whore. She should have been excommunicated immediately, but no, people were getting their dicks wet, and so they had other priorities.
And for us to stay mad at each other. And then we we were very friendly with each other and like had another interview with Right Side Rebel afterwards, just like, and we're like hugging and stuff, you know,
And this
showing that we
interview
are
took
friends
place
now.
before all that
Are you
happened.
friends
by the
with
way.
Right Side Rebel?
Friends is a strong word, but you know, I was like friendly, right?
Just to get
Chandler considered them to be friendly. He didn't consider them friend. This interview took place before the 3 weeks of Chandler put her in a chokehold nonsense. Chandler thought they were friendly with each other. Wow. Never trust women on the internet, man. No e-girls, not even once. Fuck that whore.
And so this clip is so easily could be on Fox and maybe has been on Fox.
Probably
And
by now, yeah.
is just, it's like exactly what the administration wants to
for
see
sure.
in order to carry out their policies.
I absolutely regret this a lot. I was just so angry at Ryan.
It's so small and intimate, really, what's happening here.
Yeah, we know all of these people, or most of them.
Wow.
It's so small. It is really something that it travels up all the way to
It's
the White House.
Right.
The point is, these people know each other. They're in the same cast. They perform the same play night after night on the same small set. They're like the dancers in West.
They tried to get me to say that too. The fact checker tried to get me to say that. The fact checker that I talked to the other day said, you know all these people, right? And I was really specific. I said, well, I know of some of them. I know who they are. I am friends with a couple of them. But like the fact checker was literally trying, like, I bet you there was more of me in this that they ended up taking out because they were trying to twist it to mean something it didn't mean. But because I had the fact checker, like, because obviously I recorded that fucking conversation. I hope they know that. But because I was very specific with the fact checker, I bet they took some stuff. I hope that that's the case, honestly, because I know they were trying to get me to say that I was friends with everyone down there, and I was just very specific to correct them on that. Happy holidays, Starbright. Looking forward to another amazing year of left-wing studies in 2026. Me too. I appreciate the super chat. Thank you.
Side story, coming out, dancing together on a city block, then going home to their respective neighborhoods until the next night when they're dancing, fighting in front of an audience again. These conflicts, these pint-sized scraps on a street corner, are not the sort of thing that in the past our government has sent the most powerful military in the history of the world to resolve. They're not the sort of fights that have led to anyone being labeled a domestic terror group and top national security priority. Maybe there is evidence out there that Antifa deserves that sort of treatment.
But
it's not in Portland. Though I love the smell of napalm.
Hey, Zoe, if only you could have asked me about the evidence and then I would have provided it to you. And yes, there is this in Portland. It's just not the people that you saw in Portland and not the stuff that you looked at in Portland. But Zoe, if you ever actually want evidence that Antifa is violent and dangerous, I am more than happy to provide you with primary source evidence directly from them. Of course, they will never take me up on that because they're not intellectually honest. They're NPR dickwads.
In the morning. There's no war here.
Zoe Chase is a producer on our show.
She knows
Suzanne
nothing.
Gaber helped her report this story. In the week since they were in Portland in October, things have actually quieted down in front of the ICE facility. Fewer people out on the street. Some of the streamers have moved on to other cities and other issues.
I haven't.
I get knocked down, but I get up again. You're never gonna keep me down.
Is there any more? Is that it?
Well, the program was produced today by Nadia Raymond and Suzanne Gaber.
Okay, that's it. Well, for the record, I'm still covering exactly the same content I was covering before this, so I actually haven't moved on. But again, we don't want to insert material into the story that is not from the perspective of the MAGA retards. We only want to insert the stupidest possible things, which of course I knew they were going to do. I knew it. But, listen, the thing of it is a lot of what was in this episode was not wrong. There was just this is a lie by omission is what this is. There was all the context leading up to this completely gone. And there were things that were absolutely said to them that, of course, were not included because they didn't go along with the narrative that they were trying to sell. But there was a lot of truth in this episode about The MAGA people are causing problems, but that's not to say they're the only ones there causing problems. And it's not to say that they were even the primary ones causing the problems for the majority of the time. The majority of the time this shit has been going on outside the Portland ICE facility, the fucking left has been the ones causing the problems. And then they were documented by real journalists that were just showing up there and documenting what was going on. And then people started watching it, and then people started streaming it, and it started going viral on the internet. And that's when the MAGA retards showed up and drove out the real journalists with their goddamn fucking foolishness. So she wasn't wrong about a lot of stuff in this show, but just like the total lack of any sort of integrity to present the lead up to this thing, to basically make fun of the idea that people were physically assaulted. People were physically assaulted. People were physically hurt. And it's not fucking funny. Like, it's not fucking funny when a woman gets hit in the face with a fucking flagpole. It's not funny when Shelley got beat up by Antifa. Like, none of that shit is funny. And it's like, to leave out that context and just to have it seem like this has always been the MAGA retards causing problems and nothing else happened is completely intellectually dishonest. But this is, of course, NPR, where they're all elitist liberals that think they know better than everyone fucking else when in fact they know nothing. So I don't think the parts with me were that bad. I don't like the fact that she framed me as a fake Antifa expert when I was probably the only person she talked to that actually gave her a real definition of Antifa that she, of course, didn't use because it would have made me sound smart, whereas she wanted to record stupid people saying stupid things. So that kind of sucks, but I don't think I actually came across as bad. And I actually stand by everything I said. I think that this has been a reality show from the very start. My screen just went black. There it is. It's back again. I think this whole thing was a reality show. I stand by that. It was like being in a video game. It was incredibly entertaining to be there. I loved every minute of it, apart from when I was attacked by the MAGA retards. By the way, did you guys know, side note, did you guys know that MAGA retard that laid his hands on me? He's now begging for money for people because he's out there streaming, because of course he is. And now he's begging for money from people because he can't pay his bills. So the MAGA retard who laid hands on me, who was obviously drunk, and I'm pretty sure on some sort of drug when he did it, is now out there being a professional streamer begging people for money because he can't pay his rent or his car payment. It's all so predictable. It's all so predictable. It's all so predictable. But guys, that will conclude our episode for today. That is my analysis of the This American Life episode. I regret nothing. It is what it is. And I'm going to continue to cover the real left in the way that no one else on the internet is covering it. If you want to support the work I'm doing, head over to my Substack. That is Karlyn, KARLYN.substack.com. Sign up for a membership, $8 a month, $80 a year. I really appreciate you guys allowing me to do this because I am 100% supported by people like you who literally just want access to the information and don't want bullshit from either side. I want to remind people that MacB will be doing another Doctor Who movie night, I'm pretty sure, starting at 9 p.m. in the supporter Discord. So I want to encourage everyone, go hang out with MacB in the supporter Discord tonight at 9 p.m. And he will be watching something fabulous. It's Doctor Who, right? What is he watching tonight? Thanks, Shelley, for topping by. I really appreciate it. Someone in the chat will know what MacB is watching tonight. I'm pretty sure. Anyway, if you are a member of the Doctor, he is watching Doctor Who. It is a Doctor Who movie night in the supporter Discord. You can join MacB in the VC at 9 p.m. Eastern time. Don't worry about it, Jennifer. I think people know enough to show up, or not if they don't want to. If you are a YouTube channel member, you can find the link to the Discord in the community or post section. I think if you're a Rumble supporter, you can find it on locals because I think you have access to that or something. If you are a Substack subscriber, you can go into the chat feature, and supporters on the Substack will be able to find the invitation link to the Discord. Go get verified. Go join MacB for a movie. We do movie nights every Sunday night at 8 p.m. and Monday nights at 9 p.m. And so if you want to come hang out, that's cool. That's cool. Anyway, I'll be back tomorrow. Jennifer and I are going to do a Christmas episode tomorrow about the history of Christmas or whatever. And that's going to be at 9 p.m. And I'm also going to do a 5 p.m. stream tomorrow. MacB is watching The Tomb of the Cyberman. Fun times. Fun times. Nice to catch a live show, even though it was only the last 15 minutes. Well, I hope you'll be able to join us, Chris, another day. Guys, I will be streaming all week long, but if you're going to be going off and doing holiday things, I wish you all a very Merry Christmas. I will be here literally all week. I'll probably even be streaming on Christmas because I have no life. What else am I going to do? And so I will be here throughout the week. But if you're not here throughout the week, I totally get it. And Merry Christmas to everyone and all that good stuff. And I will be back tomorrow at 5 p.m. Take care, guys. We'll see you soon.
How are you feeling? How long have you been here? 3 months, May 17th. And what brought you? That's difficult to answer. Eventually resulted in your being here in the hospital. That's difficult to answer.